through the poncho. I'm going to take those two ends. I'm going to pull them through that pipe. See, you've got to pull one end. It's nice and cinched down. Then going to do the same on all four corners. Take that, put it around my finger. I have that bite right there. That bite is going to go through the eyelet. Everybody see that? Now through that loop that I just put through that bite I just put through the eyelet, I'm going to take those two strands, I'm going to pull them through. Once I've done that, and I tighten those down, that will cinch down in that eyelet. Those aren't going anywhere. And get it about chest height, and there are many ways to make the Ranger Diamond. I suppose we'll start with the simplest way. Wrap it around right here. Okay, taking my end, going over that line. Gonna pinch that right there. That allows me to work with this. I can create that bite, and I can pull that running end through the bite. Now, this is still gonna slip, so what I'm gonna do in addition to that is I'm gonna do what's called a safety. So I'm gonna take that big old standing end that I have right there, I'm gonna wrap it around and pull another bite through to what's called a winter hitch right there. So that allows me to then easily undo it. So the whole point of these knots is that you need to be able to put them up and take them down in a cinch. So you don't want to have because if you don't know how to knot, tie a lot, and that will work. However, we want to try to preserve our lines, so if we're able to use knots that work well, then we can make sure that we can easily take this down if we need it, and also we can not destroy our lines in order to take it down. So I'm going to straighten it right to this tree right here. Go ahead and pull that taut. Get that a little lower. .45 to a 60-degree angle on that is going to be good to go. And I'm going to do the same hitch, just a trucker's hitch. Pin, especially when it's under tension, make sure that you pinch that guy. And then make sure you pull that safety through, so otherwise that loop will come undone. So there we go. Okay, so we have our first two up. From here, it's going to be a simple affair of pulling this taut from here. So the nice thing with the Ranger Diamond, it can be made off boulders, off vehicles, off trees, off whatever you need to make it off of. And you're just going to improvise with whatever is going to get you that angle that you need. So in this case, we don't have a tree right here, so what can we possibly use? We can use down logs, we can use our packs, many different things. In this case, we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab another log in order to keep this weight down. The nice thing about something movable is then I can put it where I need it to be. So once we have that other side down, we're simply going to string out the other side. Now on this side over here, we do have a lot more to work with. So I can simply, if at all possible, I want it in that same angle coming from the center. You might not always have that. That's totally fine. You know, a little off kilter is going to be okay. Easy, nice little shelter right here. Take my pack. Go ahead and put it inside. This is actually pretty nice, so we'll take a little nap right here. Is that okay, Micah? We've been filming for a while, man. Now, we can also make this lower to the ground. So if we have a lot of rain coming in, we can get this thing even lower. We can get the sides lower. If you have snow, you can also pack up snow. You can pack up mounds. You can pack up anything. There are a lot of ways to modify the very simple Ranger Diamond, but as you can see, it works quite well. I lived in these for a really unfortunate amount of time, and I can't recommend them enough. They do work really well. So, we talked about a shelter we can build with something we have. Let's talk about finding a shelter. See, the nice thing, Micah, how long did it take me to take down?
I looked away for like 10 seconds.
So that's the nice thing about it being a kind of more combat expedient shelter. It's very quick to take down. You can pack that away in your pack quite quickly. If you really were to hear a helicopter or for some reason you need to get away, you could definitely do it when it comes to the Ranger Diamond. Ready? Okay, so I've had a moment to take my breath. I've taken down my Ranger Diamond, I pulled my lines off. Now what I've done is I lined them all up. I'm going to daisy chain them up to make sure that I'm taking care of my stuff. So to daisy chain, all my lines are at the same length right here. I'm going to hold on to that. I'm going to do an overhand loop. So the lines are going over. Everybody see that? Then I'm going to, with my little fingers right here, grab that, pull another loop through. Reach through the same direction every time. I'm simply going to pull that loop through. Now, once we get to the end, we're going to change that up a little. So once we get to the end right here, instead of pulling a loop, I'm just going to pull all those strings out. That makes sure that it doesn't come undone inside my pack. Then I can simply undo that. So one more time for you guys. Overhand loop, pull it through. Overhand loop, pull it through. When you do this enough, you're just going to get super quick at it. And that is how you make a daisy chain. One of the easiest natural shelters you can find is simply going to be a tree well. So whether that be in the snow, whether that be just like right here, we have this big old pine tree right here. I can simply get under the fronds and that will give me a lot of protection from the elements. So simply going to get in here, situate those. It's sitting really close to the base of the tree. I'm actually doing pretty good. Not only that, but I'm also pretty camouflaged. But I can also increase that camouflage by doing one thing. So I'll show you guys that right here. So one thing that I can do inside those tree wells right here, underneath the palm tree to increase the camouflage a little bit more is if you take my poncho, all I'm gonna do is take a line, I'm gonna pull a slip knot. So I'm gonna do that. So I'm gonna do an overhand loop. I'm gonna pull a loop through and that will cinch down on something. So pull that slip loop through. Simply going to capture the hood right here that I have knotted up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to hang that on a branch right above me and drape this over me. I have spent, here comes Mike, he's like, spent years, huh, Mike, living that? Pretty much. So I'm going to get back into my little shelter. Go ahead and hang this guy up as close to being above my head as possible. Pull a little trucker's hitch right there to get it hung up. Always a trucker's hitch, right, Micah?
Always.
Then, what I can do, especially if I have a little bit of rain dripping down on me, I can get under this poncho. I have spent so much time sleeping in these types of shelters, and they work extremely well. They also increase your camouflage, so Michael will back away a little bit, get further away, and take a look at me. Last thing to consider is when it's snowing, the snow won't get into the trunk, so you can actually climb down like 2 to 3 feet into this guy. Put that poncho over yourself, line the bottom with it, and you have a really good sleeping arrangement. And so long as you're covering your tracks pretty well in the snow, it's going to be really hard to find because as you can see, just spanning out right here, there are trees freaking everywhere. They're not going to search every tree. You guys are idiots. They're going to be looking for army shelters. They're not going to be looking for trees. So we just heard a helicopter. We need to get some type of shelter. So we're going to move right now. We're going to find something. If I'm not already in the trees, get into the tree line immediately to help block yourself from the sky. You probably didn't see me there. Evasion. Living under fallen trees, under rocks, under logs. If you've spent any time in the woods, you know that in draws, trees tend to fall into them. It's a perfect place to hide. We'll create all these little places you can live under these dead logs. 100% a great thing to do. So whatever you do when it comes to these more evasion type combat shelters, you want to make sure that you are low to the ground, that it blends. For example, if this is the only fallen tree in a clearing and there's no trees around, probably don't sleep in it. It should be something where it blends in really well with everything around it. It shouldn't draw the eye. So what we typically say is below thigh level is pretty good. Now, when you're getting into them, you're typically gonna make a little bit of noise. You're cracking branches, that's life. Sound doesn't travel nearly as far as light does, though. So their ability to see you is gonna be number one. Now, once you get settled in, you're gonna make far less noise. Now, these are a great place to sleep. Spent many a night sleeping in something like this or sleeping under logs. Or is there a possibility of running into critters? 100%. If you can, try to keep an eye on game trails. So if this is like a main game trail, don't do that. One time I slept in this bramble branches that was right in a game trail, and I woke up to like this weird noise, and it was a elk had gotten his like antlers caught in the brambles, and so like when I woke up, he was like going, and I was like, what the fuck? And it went boom, and it like just blew up my shelter, and I was like, oh my god, it like charged off. Scariest day of my life. I actually peed myself. Sometimes you don't know till you're there, but stay away from anthills, right? If you get in there and suddenly you're in an anthill, that sucks. Move, because those things will bite the shit out of you. Sometimes you have to do it. There's been times when, you know, in these evasion scenarios, civilian side or otherwise, where I'm being hunted and the helicopter's flying right over, some guys just popped out of a vehicle really close by and had to dive into something like this, and I just dove right into an ant's nest. Whatever, you know, suck it up, dude. You're gonna have to wait. So like, I waited in one for an hour while ants were just crawling over me, biting the shit out of me. It sucked. I'm not allergic. If I am, I also have an EpiPen. Keep meds on you, but you're gonna survive. It's going to be terrible though. When it comes to evasion shelter, if you can be close to water, as always, that's gonna be a good thing. Typically not. Try to have some water on you, some type of bag, or otherwise. We'll talk about that in a...
And while we climb this mountain, I want to tell you guys about Shopify, a platform that makes starting a business incredibly easy. Shopify helped me turn my YouTube channel into a business, and they can do it for whatever you're passionate about, like climbing mountains. Whew. If you've ever bought my merch or Feastables, you've used it. I'm forever grateful for them because I've been using them since we had 3 million subscribers. Shopify powers businesses in 175 countries. Starting a business can be scary, kind of like climbing this mountain. But entrepreneurship allows you to wake up every single day and do what you love, so the risk is worth it. Can you build an elevator next time, Jimmy? This is now Shopify Mountain. To be honest, I couldn't have done it without Shopify. Go to Shopify.com and start your free trial today.
Call that fucking nasty.
Just a teeny bit right here. But we have our evasion shelters, we have our made shelters. You can also combine the two. I can get my poncho under here, I can improve it. If you're going to add any branches, any rocks to or something like that, don't gather it around your immediate area. A lot of people will make the mistake of like grabbing logs and sticks right around their natural or evasion shelter, and there's like evasion shelter and there's like just barren ground. It's like all like bunched up. Don't make like a nest like you're some type of beaver or something. Make sure that you get it far away and that you bring it in. You don't want to make it look abnormal when you're doing it. And the only way you're gonna know if it looks abnormal is by spending time in the woods. So get in the woods. There could be some times when you might be so cold that despite all the good clothing you have on from layering properly, you might just need to start a fire. A couple things you need to think about when it comes to fire is going to be that fire is extremely visible to imaging technology. Thermal night vision can see it up to 20 miles, even further from the sky. I've been in a helicopter under night vision and thermal scanning for fires, and I will tell you, it is incredibly visible from a very, very far distance, especially just out in nature. Nothing makes light like that unless it's a forest fire. So you're probably going to stick out like a sore thumb. So understand that when you're making a fire, it needs to be in the most dire circumstances. And when it comes to combat survival, we want to assume we're still being hunted to some extent. So we're going to keep this fire very small. We're going to keep it limited, and we're going to use what we need, and then we're going to move on. When it comes to finding fire sources, there's a lot of ways to do it. The thing about it is anybody can make a fire in a dry environment. I'm sure you've gone out to the lake with your buddies, you've gathered some sticks off the ground, and you started a fire. But today, it has rained. It's been raining for a straight week right now. Micah, all the wood that we have on here on the ground, how would you describe it?
I mean, you can see the light shimmering off all the stuff. Everything's wet.
Everything's completely wet. So when we think about making a fire in a survival situation, we need to find dry wood. So the first place I want to look for dry wood is going to be dead standing trees or trees at the lower branches where they are dead at the bottom. So for example, right here we have a tree that is dead. It's a little bit punky. By punky I mean it's rotted a little bit. But the more angle, the more lean it has to it, the more rain and water it's going to catch. So we want to find that tree that's just direct upright. And we want to take as little as possible, because every time I break a branch, especially if it's alive, I'm going to have that nice white mark on there. Versus after it's been a while, it's grayed up. So it could be a possible sign to a tracker if we're being tracked by somebody who knows their shit. So right here, I have a bunch of these little twigs right here that are down at the bottom. They're nice and dead. And if you're not sure if they're dead, one thing that we can do too, we can take our knife. You don't need a fancy knife, by the way. This is a knife I use actually as a survival instructor. I've used the shit out of it. All the finish is gone. It's an SE4. They work fine. You can scrape into the twig a little bit. And what you can do is the most sensitive part in your body for wetness is your lips. And it's a really good way to detect the difference. So we used to always say, give the tree a little kiss there, and that's nice dry wood. Another thing that we can look at, Mike, if you want to come in right here, is this right here. That right there is sap. That is extremely flammable. That can be used to help you maintain fires, start fires. Understand it will put out a little bit of black smoke, but that is something I'm going to want to have. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to gather up just a few twigs here. I really don't need too many, because again, all I'm trying to really do is just get myself warm enough. And we're going to be trapping a lot of that heat, utilizing my favorite thing, which is the poncho. So right here with our evasion fire, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be digging down into the ground. And the biggest thing is I want something that's going to be easily naturalized. So that means that after I'm done with the fire, that I can easily make it look like it was never there. So when I'm talking an evasion fire, the biggest thing is I want to make it look like I was never there. So if I need to put this out quickly because I hear something happens, I want to be able to do it as fast as possible. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to dig down. We're going to do about an 8 to 12 inch hole. So I'm simply actually going to cut straight into the earth. All the knife guys out there like, oh my God, his knife, no. It's a tool, dudes. Take that bit of earth right there. I'm going to take that whole clump. I'm going to set it off. That way, once I need to put this out, I can just take that whole clump and just shove it right on there. Okay, I'm going to create that nice flat base there at the bottom. So I'm going to take some of that dry prep work that I made. I'm going to create that nice little platform of wood. Do a little bit of construction out here. That's what all guys, this is literally the man's fantasy. So I've made my teeny little platform, and if you've made fires in the woods before, you know this is basically a microcosm of fire that you see large scale. There really isn't a whole lot of difference. The only difference being that it's going to be much smaller and it's going to produce a lot less heat. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting a little bit of my prep work done. So I'm trying to get these little twigs and breaking them up. That way they can burn very easily and make that little bit of heat for me. I'm going to take my sap right here, go ahead and grind that up a little bit so I can light a little bit more easily. So for our tinder, got a lot of nice sap right here that we've gotten our hands on. Got some of this shaved wood to help catch it. You definitely want a lot of tinder. It's really nice to have some type of tinder that you have on you. It's like cotton balls soaked in Vaseline, expanded out, or something that you buy. Cotton balls and Vaseline is what I use for most of my career. You can also do it naturally like we have right here. Just a little bit more challenging. We'll go ahead and do this. So what we're gonna wanna do is shave a little bit. Oops. There's a problem with working such a small platform, is it does have a tendency to want to shift on you. It's kind of a bitch to start an evasion fire. So I'm going to scrape a little bit off before lighting it. And the idea behind that is those sparks can then ignite There. Okay, so we got this started just a little bit. Now, with these fires, what we want to do is keep them pretty small, which is what makes them so difficult. So actually, all I'm going to do with this fire is I'm going to keep it very small. I'm going to take my poncho, I'm going to put it over myself, and I'm going to trap that heat in the poncho.
You can pass out too.
No, keep the smoke flowing out. And all that you're doing here, keep the hood open also, is trapping that heat to warm yourself up. Another thing that works really good is going to be a sterno can. Most people don't typically have those on them, but an evasion fire is never going to get that big. You're never going to be really cooking anything. That's not the point. It's just to keep yourself alive if you absolutely need it. Then, if you hear somebody, you do, put that right back down, and naturalize that, except for my footprint right there, which of course you can't do much about. The point is you can put out an evasion fire fast. It's not going to be much, but it's going to be enough to keep you alive in a really bad circumstance. So you're not going to just sit with your head in the smoke. It's going to depend on the type of vegetation that you're using also. You want to have that hood open. This is a very temporary measure. When I've done it, I've maybe been in there for 30 seconds, a minute. It wasn't much. It was just enough to get my body warmed up in a really bad environment. I'd gotten really wet. I just needed to get like maybe a psychological pick-me-up. I don't know. It definitely works. If you need to, just understand how dangerous fire is. If you're taking proper care of your clothing and your equipment though, you're very likely not going to need it. So let's talk about taking care of equipment. The biggest thing about taking care of equipment is going to be treating things a little bit differently. Now with evasion, it can be a little bit tough when it comes to things like clothing. They're going to get dirty. You want to keep them as clean as possible. So the one thing we always said back in the old days was keep your knees out of the dirt. Because when you think about everyone putting their knees into the ground, that's what wears out the quickest. If you can, try to avoid it. Now on like some of the newer cryo combat pants, it's not as big of a thing, but still you want to take care of your clothing as much as possible. It could be all that you have on you. So what that comes down to is going to be, if you got dirt, dust, get it off. Clean up your pants as much as possible. If you're near a water source, like a river, a stream, use that to scrub some of that dirt out. Try to keep this clothing as clean as possible. Imagine having to hold on to this for a long time. There was a Japanese soldier who never got the memo that World War II had ended and ended up fighting well into the 60s. Insane story, by the way. Highly recommend you read about him. But the point being, when he finally realized that the war was over and he surrendered, he still had his Imperial Japanese Army uniform. It was still well taken care of. It had held together. This clothing can last you a long time so long as you take care of it. Remember that. With your knives, your clothing, your tools, your weapons, make sure you keep your weapon oiled. If it's snowy outside, it's icy outside. If you have some type of heated shelter, don't take it in and out. That will get that ice and water deep inside the weapon. And when it comes to your equipment, keep it off the ground. Keep it in pockets. If you need to take it out often, keep it lanyarded off to you. The point is you don't want to lose this stuff, so treat it as if it is your most prized possession. Because once you lose a knife, dude, that is a bad time. Food and water. You can go 3 days without water, but I'll tell you after a day, you're freaking useless. So water is going to be a number one concern. When it comes to food, most of you probably don't need it. You can probably go a few weeks without food and be absolutely fine. The thing you have to understand about food is obviously you have the food that you're going to have in your combat pack, that you're going to be having with your MREs, that type of stuff. But there's going to be a time in survival where you're probably going to eat what's naturally around you. What's great is that a shit ton of things are edible right around us. Local flora and fauna right here. I know I can nibble on the ends of these and just get a fuck ton of vitamin C. So that is just one of the many things that you can get into. When it comes to plant life, the thing you have to realize is that if you're going to identify a source that's edible, this is going to be a little bit of preparation on your part, knowing the local plants and fauna and flora. Otherwise, you might have to experiment a little bit, which is much more dangerous. So a couple general principles to think about. Red berries, 50-50, poison or not poison. Probably not going to mess with them in a survival scenario. White berries, anything with white berries or black dots on them, stay away from them. They're poisonous. When it comes to your blackberries and blueberries, they're almost always edible. When it comes to aggregate berries, such as raspberries, huckleberry, those are all edible. Those are good to go, despite the color, except for white, but I don't know of any white aggregate berries. So those are all going to be good to go. When it comes to plants, like just basic leaves that we have, identify plants in your area that you know are going to be edible. Typically, leaves, especially inside the bark, tubers, so like the roots themselves, are going to be quite edible and nutritious. They're going to provide a lot of carbohydrates, and that's what you typically need when it comes to a survival situation, because it's going to use less water. Protein uses a shit ton of water. You're probably going to be a little bit limited on water, so you want to be careful with that protein intake. Now, if you don't know if something is poisonous or not poisonous, you literally cannot find any game to eat, and you just have to eat this plant, and you see this plant everywhere, you can do a basic taste test. So we'll explain how to do that. So I have identified this plant right here. I see it everywhere. I'm like, you know what? I need food. I can't find anything. I think this is edible. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and snap the branch. So it takes me a little bit more time. And what I'm looking for is any type of milk coming out, like that white milky substance. Stay away from that. That's going to be no good for you. Once I've done that, it's going to depend on what I'm going to eat. So am I going to be eating the branch itself, the root itself, or the leaves? So in this case, we'll try the leaves. So what I'm going to do is I can rub it on a sensitive part of my body. So in this case, I'll crush it up and I rub it on the inside of my wrist. What I'm going to be looking for is any type of reaction. Typically, you want to wait about an hour to 2 hours to see if it's good to go. So if we assume that that time has passed, there's been no reaction, what I can do is take the tip of my tongue and touch it to it. What I'm looking for is there any type of flavor that feels immediately wrong? Is the tip of my tongue numb? Even on the most deadly plants, that tip of the tongue taste will not kill you, so you're going to be fine. If after that time has passed, everything's feeling good, what I can do is I can crush up a bunch of those leaves, go ahead and make a dip pouch out of it. I'm going to keep that in unless I notice any numbing of my lips, any weird feelings, nausea, vomit, anything like that. Anything that feels wrong, that plant's going to be no good. After an hour, I can spit that juice out, and I don't notice any effects. What I can do after that, again, taste test does take a while. I can take a tiny portion of that, and I can just eat it. Once I've eaten it, I'm looking for any type of ill effects. Now, here's the thing with eating it. You can't have anything else in your stomach at the time you eat it to mess with that test. So, if after 24 hours nothing's crazy is happening, I'm going to increase my amount I'm going to eat to a normal portion. If after that amount of time nothing crazy has happened, probably an edible plant. I'm going to go ahead and eat it, get those nutrients from it. Understand that the taste test is a last resort. Much better is to simply buy a book about plants and learn what is edible in your area. I think that sounds a lot better. What about you, Micah? But taste test does work.
Yo, Mike, you see that deer up there, dude?
Yeah.
Would you kill a deer in a combat survival situation?
Probably not.
Why not?
Because it'll make a lot of noise.
Sure would. So think about the amount of ammunition you have, the amount of noise you're going to make. You probably want to save this for the two-legged variety. And killing a deer, it's a lot of meat. It's a lot of tracking. And if your weapon's not powerful enough, 5.56 isn't exactly a hunting caliber, you might not quite kill it. So, you know, when we used to teach people like hunting, we typically teach small animals are much more manageable. It's easy to gut them and skin them, and it's just easy. You're probably not going to use your gun. Even if you do use your gun, there's a chance that it's just not going to end well for you. Stay away from those large animals. I understand that it's tempting. It's a lot of meat, a lot of calories. That's typically not the right thing to do, and also it's going to leave behind a big sign of presence. If there's animals, especially huntable animals like deer, elk, moose, more than likely the locals around this area are probably going to prize those as well. And if you kill their moose, they're probably going to be looking for you because they've probably been tracking that thing too. So in general, rabbits, squirrels, birds, those are all going to be great. With those animals, just remove the internal organs, eat the meat. After an animal is freshly killed, the meat is universally good. You can just eat it. You don't have to cook it. You can sun dry it if you really want. Things I've done is I've tied it to the back of my pack and I've just let it sun dry as I've walked, or I've just eaten the meat fresh. It really isn't that big of a deal. Organs can be good to go, but you need to look for a couple signs. So generally what we say for a worldwide perspective is don't eat the organs. Stick to that meat and you're going to be good to go. If you haven't gotten an animal before, highly recommend you look it up. We actually don't know if you can show it on YouTube, so we're not going to show it right now. When it comes to water, you absolutely need it. Now, we've talked a lot about evasion principles when it comes to water and sneaking up to water, so we're not really going to spend a lot of time on that. We're going to spend a lot of time on the different implements of water. We talked a lot about iodine in the last evasion video, and the reason for that is water is dangerous because everyone needs water. Animals, people, everything. Because of that, coming to water, you're at the very least probably going to scare an animal. That could possibly telegraph your position, give you away in an evasion situation. At worst, you run into enemy forces. When we talk actual survival, where we don't have to be as weary around water, there are a couple different things that we can use. So some of my favorite stuff to use is I love the hydro packs. And the reason for this is that we have these replaceable filters right on there. So you're simply able to fill up right from the river. As long as the water is roughly moving and isn't turbid where it has a bunch of dirt or soot or silt or anything like that, I'm gonna have a pretty easy time. Beyond this, the Sawyer filters are also great, and that works great. If you don't have these types of sources for your water, you don't have these filters that are built in, you don't have a Sawyer filter on you, there are other methods. So the things that I've used in the past is I'll take like my t-shirt and I'll use that to filter water directly into a canteen. You can use like your neckerchief or your face mask. That works really well to filter out a lot of that soot and sand. And once it's in there, you're simply going to put iodine in there. You guys understand water. You can also boil it if you don't have any type of purification method, but understand that water does need to be purified. That's what we're going to primarily talk about when it comes to water. You need it. Make sure you're drinking it. When we talk about water, we talk about rationing your sweat, not water. You need to continue to drink water. You can't just ration your water. That's not the way it works. So try to make sure that you're always cold, a little bit cold. What we mean by that is you don't want to be sweating a whole bunch. Being a little bit lazy when it comes to survival is going to go a long way. So open up your layers, keep yourself cooled off, don't sweat. In the Arctic, in fact, you can die from sweat because that sweat can get all over your body. Then as you cool down, it's going to freeze your body, possibly put you in hypothermia, more than likely. It was like negative 80 degrees when I was up there in the Arctic Circle, and yeah, that's going to be straight death if you sweat. Comms and signaling. There might be a time when you need to communicate or signal friendly forces or somebody to get away, to get to safety. It's all going to depend on who you're fighting in Arma 3 in Minecraft. So understand that cell phones are generally a very bad idea depending on who you're going up against, because that signal is very easily detectable, intercepted, and exploited, and you're gonna catch a hellfire. So probably not. So if you have a cell phone, put it in a Faraday bag. They're very easy to buy. You can find them everywhere, and they'll block the signal completely if you absolutely need your cell phone on you. Otherwise, you might be using a radio. Understand that depending on if you're transmitting without encryption, that again is very easy to triangulate, intercept, and exploit. So be careful. Transmit sparingly. Transmit on a comm schedule. So like an example of a comm schedule would be we check in with each other every 2 hours at the top of the hour or something along those lines, to keep your emissions of radio energy to a minimum. If you do have encryption, still be very careful. Treat it as if you're transmitting in the open. Don't use your names, don't use exact locations. Everything should be done via ciphers, via some type of way of scrambling the numbers and the letters if you have to give exact information. For example, if I had to give my coordinates in MGRS, rather than just spitting out my exact coordinates over the radio net, we'd have some type of crypto key that we could read to each other where we'd have to decrypt it to know that information. And again, if that gets captured, then you need to change your crypto information. So, comms, important, probably not as important to most of you, but it is a consideration. Just understand that given the technology and capability of many people throughout the world, that it's a dicey move. So be careful. Travel. You might have been spotted, you might need to travel. It is combat evasion, and you do have to get places. We're not going to do a full travel video today because it takes a lot for navigation. But a couple of good things you need to know. One, you should know your area. You should know where you are. You should have a map of the area. And you should have a map of the area that is at a scale that is enough to navigate off of. I've seen, you can get those giant maps that have like the entire state of Washington or Idaho on them. And it's like, great, this doesn't help me at all for topography. So make sure you have a map that will show you the topography of where you are well enough that you can translate that and move off of it.
But what if I don't have one?
If you don't have a map?
Yeah.
Well, you should have you're probably fighting for your home turf, so you should probably know your home turf a little bit.
So let's do research.
Let's do a little bit of research. Now, if you are completely lost, you've been shot at, you're discombobulated, you have no idea where you are, and you're like, damn, I actually am not sure where I am right now. Like, I'm not sure which direction is which. Like, where my cardinal directions are, northeast, southwest. One, you should have compass on you. Right here we have a little Sunto wrist compass, which work really well. I typically recommend a linsatic compass that is like a military compass. You can do a lot of work on them. We'll expand upon that in a later video. But if for whatever reason you don't have a compass, you don't know, I've seen a lot of really weird shit. People are like, oh yeah, moss only grows on the north side of a tree. Completely false, you're gonna die. So one thing that we can do, however, is I always do wear an analog watch. One, because in this case, this is a perpetual, so it's just powered by my movement, so I'm always going to have the time. But more importantly, you can also navigate off of it. So, I have the sun right there. Don't look into the sun. And what I'm going to do in the northern hemisphere is I'm going to point the 12 o'clock at the sun, and halfway between the sun and my hour hand is going to be south. So if you come over here, Micah, there's noon. My hour hand, it's just a little past noon.
There's the sun.
So I'm going to be just between the hour hand and the sun, and if I hold up my wrist compass, 180 degrees, that's due south. God damn, it works. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
So a lot of people get really confused because the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, but the further northern in elevation you are, the kind of wonkier it gets. So worst case scenario as well, if you are completely lost and you got a little time on your hands, you can also look at approximately where that sun is setting, and that's going to give you an approximate distance. There are many ways to find direction. There's also the stick method. We're not going to show it today. I prefer the watch method. It's quick, it's dirty, or just have a compass on you. A couple of things to think about. So if we come over here and we look down this hill right here, that's a pretty steep hill. And one thing to realize is that human beings are pretty lazy. You have a tendency to want to take the easier path. So when you're traveling and you don't want to get sucked down into these drainages, if you want to stay on this more just on a hillside, what I typically recommend as you're navigating is that you stick to the uphill side of trees as you're walking, or bushes. That's going to help you keep yourself from getting sucked down. That's a basic tip that I have. Beyond that, guys, know your area. That's going to help you get where you want, and full video and navigation later. So let's go ahead and let's finish this up. Combat survival is brutal. It's violent. Combat evasion is brutal and violent, and the two of them go together. You need to understand both. These two videos that we've done so far are the absolute beginner courses in this subject material. I spent 6+ years, at this point 12 years, doing this stuff, and I still don't even know a quarter of the information. The best guys are the guys who are like 90+, just living in the woods. The point is, know this. You don't want to be in a situation where you need it and you've never learned it, you've never practiced it, and that's what's going to make you good. I can't make you a survival expert. I can't make you an evasion expert. That's going to be on you. I can show you the base knowledge, but the only way you're going to get good at this stuff is actually getting out into nature right here. So get out, explore nature, practice this stuff, because God forbid the moment ever comes when you need to use it, you're going to be glad that you invested the small amount of time that you did into it. Because I'll be honest, man, you can come out here, you can bring your family to the woods, you can camp, you can have a good time doing this stuff, have a good time with the boys, have a good time with your children, your wife. It doesn't have to be something where you feel like you have to dedicate so much time to it and be away from your family. This can all be done together. So guys, please get out there and train. It's vitally important. I don't know what the future holds, but I will say that human history is rife with violence. So always be prepared. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We love you guys so much. And as always, we got nothing else for you. Final thing for you guys. You know, a lot of people talk about buying all the coolest, latest stuff, but as we've always said, man, just train, because going to debt is never cool.
Mengandung kalsium setara susu sapi. Outside, ahlinya oat milk.
Kalian tahu nggak, problem paling gede yang dialami sama Indonesia yang bikin dia nggak bisa jadi negara maju, itu istilah simple. Lo punya duit, lo punya kuasa.
Nama 9 naga yang disebut-sebut menguasai perekonomian di Indonesia.
Pak Jokowi itu dikendalikan oleh 9 taifa.
Kenapa sampai dia bilang 9 naga di Indonesia itu tuh punya kekuasaan bahkan di atas presiden? Mereka lah yang sebenarnya mengontrol negara ini. Dan ironisnya, gue bakal bedah, ini sebenarnya bukan salah mereka, tapi salah dari kepemimpinan yang tidak baik.
Hey man, everybody's gone, dude. We got 200 moving on us. We gotta go right now. Love and children, war and death. These are two very polar opposites in life. And it might seem like these are two things that are very far from each other. But if there's anything we've learned in recent times, it's that these aren't nearly as far as we think they'd be. It might seem like a fantasy that you'd need to have the skills that we're going to talk about today, that you should know how to evade a professional military, how to evade trackers, how to evade a untrained military. And yet, as recently as Hamas invading Israel, where concert goers had to evade those enemy forces, to multiple others who had to go through it in real life, it's a reality. And it might seem far away right now, but the fact of the matter is that information is free. And today we're going to be getting out information that could very well mean the difference between living a long life, living with your family, living with your children, having children, or it could be the difference between dying because you don't know how to get away from those individuals. And everything that we're going to be talking about today, these are not skills that I can make you experts on. This is a intro. This is a beginner's course. I can't make you an expert in evasion. I can't make you masterful at this. But we can make this a launching point for you to practice, for you to learn more skills. You actually have to get out here and try this stuff out, because if you don't, I do promise you that all the information in the world does not translate into real world experience and real world training and actually put it on the pack and trying what we're talking about today. So, with all that being said, as heavy as this topic is, let's go ahead and launch into it. Now, before we do have to thank our sponsors, of course, for allowing us to give this free information out. So we, of course, have to thank Soaring Desert Institute. If you're looking to get your start in gunsmithing, they are great people to go to. We, of course, love who, Micah?
Primary Arms.
So, real talk. We do have an expensive setup there, but they make great optics at a great price, and we definitely recommend them. So go and check them out. You should be dry firing. You should be being prepared. So get out there, try out Mantis. They will turn your gun into a dry firing machine. It is the way to get good. And of course, AEC ammunition. We're not going to be shooting much at all today, but they do sponsor ammo to allow us to train, to allow us to show you guys how to train, and to give you guys valuable insights. So, with all that being said, talk is, in this case, really important. So let's get into it and let's show you how this all works. So credentialing, why should you listen to me? So I spent 6 years of my military career as a survival, evasion, resistance, and escape instructor, where I taught this very thing to at-risk DoD personnel, all the way from your air crew all the way up to your tier 1 guys. In addition to that, afterwards I worked as a tactical air control party, as a special warfare officer, and did a lot more of this in more of a tactical environment. So I have a lot of experience there. Now, in addition to that, I've taken a literal shit ton of tracking, counter-tracking, both military and civilian survival courses, and we're going to be drawing upon all that experience
At Creo Legal, we're dealing with contracts daily. With Adobe Acrobat AI Assistant, we can get to the main points of a document faster and have the most relevant information extracted in minutes. All we have to do is ask.
primarily from those really interesting individuals I've learned from, whether it be from European survival experts, from people who specialize in desert evasion out in Israel or out in Saudi Arabia. I've had this really eclectic group of survival and evasion experts who have taught me a lot in addition to tracking and counter-tracking. We're going to be drawing upon all those experiences. Now, we're obviously out here in the mountains in kind of a more coniferous forest. Now, that being said, we'll be talking about every different environment, and you're going to have to apply it to the environment that you're in. So understand those things. Let's go ahead and let's get into it. There is nothing that is more terrifying than being hunted by a human. Whether you've played hide and go seek, like you played hide and go seek before, right? You're like, it's always a little bit of a rush. Humans are apex predators, so being hunted by a human, few have experienced it, and far few have lived to tell the tale of it. So the thing that you need to understand going into this too is you need to learn to control your heart rate, whether that be combat breathing, whatever you do to find your happy place. You want to make sure that you're not getting so worked up, so crazy that you start making mistakes. Keep that heart rate at a good medium. And what's going to come along with that is fitness, right? If you're not fit, just like we've always said, you're going to fucking die. So keep yourself calm. And whatever the situation might be, you are at a concert in Israel, Hamas flies in on their paragliders, you're engaging some force in Minecraft, whatever it might be, and you need to get away because either everybody's dead, you've run low on ammo, and you can't continue the fight. Whatever reason it might be that you need to get away from a force, you're doing recce, and they discover your position, and the entire army is now moving on you. Whatever it might be, what we need to understand is how a tracker is going to work. So a tracker, if they lose sight of you, is going to have to find evidence of which way you've went by your footprint. It's going to take them a while. So the first thing that we're going to do once we've been spotted, we're breaking that contact, is we're going to, in layman's terms, get the fuck away. We're going to put as much terrain between us, whether that be micro terrain like small rocks and small hills if we're in the desert, or if we're out here, we put entire mountains. Your fitness is kind of the thing that's going to stop you from going as far as you need to go. Get as much time, distance, and terrain as you possibly can away. That's going to be extremely important to making sure that you break that contact with whoever it is. So we want to put as much ground between us. We want to put as many obstacles between us. And the longer that we're able to go, because we're fitter, the better it's going to be for us. So again, terrain, ground, anything that we can put between us. If you're in the desert, small rises and dunes, small rocks, things like that, that micro terrain is going to be awesome for you. And out here, we have trees, we have larger hills and mountains, because a lot of people are like, oh, you're going to get seen by thermal. Sure, that thermal needs to see you though. And by putting trees in between you, that thermal ain't seeing you. It needs a direct line of sight onto you. So, in layman's terms, we are going to get the fuck away from them as fast as we can. There's actually not a whole lot of technique when it comes to how we're moving. We can talk about that a little bit later, but we're just going to sprint. And the way I've always explained it is you're going to sprint until you can't sprint. You're going to run until you can't run. You're going to walk until you can't walk. Then you're going to crawl into a little hiding spot and you're going to vomit because you pushed yourself so hard. That's how far we want to get. And if you say to yourself, you know, there's no way I could possibly push myself that hard, I promise you the adrenaline will be so intense. Even in training environments, just getting hunted by your buddies, you're like, oh my God. So, as you can see, we have a lot of terrain right here. Sky's the limit, Micah. How fit are you? Mid. So, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start. So, first thing we do, let's get down this screen slope. Now, if I don't have any type of camouflage on, obviously I do, but if I don't have any type on, things that we can do is an initial type of camouflage. So think about it this way. If I'm at like a campfire and I'm wearing like normal civilian clothing, I can take that charcoal, I can smear it across my body. If I'm near mud, if I'm around dirt, I can get that on my face, on my arms. I can do a little bit of initial camouflage as I'm moving or right before I move. All right, let's continue. Now, it's nice to come along these rocks because it doesn't leave any type of prints, any types of cracks, except for the falling shale, which is going to pick up dust. Right here, after I've traveled down that, I'm now shifting onto ground where I will leave tracks, but we are doing our initial movement. Let's continue. Now, I'm headed to this forested area right here. We're on the side of a hill right here. I'm very exposed, so I want to try to limit how they can see me. We have a whole forest right there. Let's get into it. Yeah, we've gotten in to the tree line right here. As you can see,
You call that fucking nasty?
right here we have a nice stream. Now, typically you want to stay away from water. The reason is, who needs water, Micah?
Everybody?
Everybody. So there's typically going to be animals you can disturb, humans. In this case, I want to break that initial contact. And in fact, if I travel upstream for a little bit in the water, it's going to be uncomfortable. However, it's going to break my trail on what they can see, as well as make it harder for dogs to track my scent. Let's go do it. Okay, at the stream, let's get into it, break our scent. Okay, so we've headed upstream a little bit. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and cut back in. This is gonna make it very difficult for them to track our progress. I recommend between 200 to 500 meters. Let's head back on shore. All right, the terrain is way better now. I'm gonna pick up speed. Let's go. Okay, so we've gotten into our initial hide site right here. So here's some things that we're looking at. Our initial hide site isn't going to be the best hide site, but here's a couple things that we're going to be looking for. I want to try to get somewhere that's going to really obscure anybody from really seeing in. This is going to do okay. Another thing I want is some bit of top cover, because obviously you don't know what you're dealing with. Obviously, if you're dealing with a professional military, they have UAVs, satellites, airplanes. You want to be able to try to shield yourself from that, especially if they have that cooled thermal. That stuff is really good. So try to get that top cover if at all possible. If you're in the desert, rock overhangs, shadows of dunes digging into those, having that tarp over you, it's going to work really, really well. So now that we're at our hide site, we've traveled about 1.5 miles. It's going to depend on your terrain. In an urban environment, it's going to be different. In the desert, you can go even further. Out here in the mountains, it's not going to be quite as far because you're going to gas yourself out. Now that we're here, we can go ahead and start prioritizing what we need to do. This is my moment to take a breath, take stock of the situation, and think about what I need to do. All right. Big thing is remain calm in these situations. A couple notes that you should always do. One, your rifle. You're probably going to have your rifle on you if you're in a good situation. If not, don't worry about this too much. Always keep that rifle either slung on you or at minimum within arm's reach. Never let that thing get away from you. That's always a standard you need to hold to. So now that we're here, we're going to take this moment. We're going to be able to drink some water and figure out what we need to do. The biggest thing is we need to remain calm and think calmly about what we need to do next. Now, if you're with a professional military, you're in a civilian situation where the country's still there. Think about a civilian in Israel, for example. It's probably a good idea that you want to make comms with somebody. You want to pull up your cell phone, call them, let them know what's going on, right? Now, in our situation, we're considering this kind of a end of the world type deal. So maybe we have a radio. We have comms with our main constituent forces somewhere that we get a hold of. Maybe we have a satellite phone. A couple things to consider. Think about who you're dealing with. Do they have the capability of intercepting those signals? Do they know how to triangulate your signals? Are they that advanced? It might be a good idea not to transmit. Now, these things should all be thought of ahead of time, especially if you're fighting some type of guerrilla or professional war. You should know what those capabilities are. And especially if you get separated from your main forces and you find yourself in a situation like this, you should know when or when not you should be transmitting. Okay, another thing we should think about is what stands out on me right now, Micah. What can you see? What just looks out of place? Yeah. So faces are very recognizable. There's a lot of things that are easily spotted. So things that are easily spotted are faces. They're very recognizable. You live your entire life knowing to recognize a face. If you're looking at a forest and you see the face just peering out at you, obviously that's going to be a no-go. Same thing with hands. Downward facing V's. So think your armpits, the side of your body, inside of your legs. These are all things that are going to stand out on you and are going to possibly give you away. That's why bag your clothes, if you can have camouflage on, is going to be nice. If you're able to camouflage yourself up with local flora, fauna, that's going to be good. But one thing that we can do right now is we can do some type of camouflage. What I have right here is a very basic camo stick. These are issued to us very widely. You can get them for less than $1. You can find them at any Army Navy surplus store. Now these are more kind of specific to a forest area. We have loamy green, we have dark green. So one thing that you're going to want to do is try to camouflage your face. If you don't have camo paint, mud, using pigment off of leaves, all that is going to be good. Try to disguise your face as much as possible. Now, in the case of where we are right here,
sebagai kreator video, musuh terbesar kita adalah waktu, dan sesuatu yang menyita banyak waktu adalah gradasi warna. Saya Harry, bukan ahli gradasi warna. Pustaka infar yang
in trees and stuff, what you typically want to do is you want to do diagonal lines. That's my preferred way of doing this across your face. So I'm gonna go ahead, start marking up my face right here. And generally, you want to kind of reverse what's going on in your face. So what I mean by that is we want to have lighter colors where it's
Pesawat Boeing E-4B Nightwatch yang merupakan salah satu pesawat hari kiamat milik AS dilaporkan terbang ke pangkalan gabungan Andrews pada Selasa 17 Juni 2025 malam. Pesawat hari kiamat dirancang untuk melindungi pejabat penting AS, terutama Presiden, dan memastikan pemerintah AS tetap beroperasi ketika terjadi perang nuklir. Pesawat itu terbang ketika Presiden AS Donald Trump tengah berpikir akan menyerang fasilitas nuklir Iran dalam perang Iran melawan Israel atau tidak. Melansir New York Post, pesawat terdeteksi oleh pelacak penerbangan dengan rute panjang dan berliku menuju ibu kota. Sekitar pukul 18 waktu setempat, pesawat itu berangkat dari Bossier City, Louisiana. Setelah melintasi pantai dan berputar di perbatasan Virginia dan North Carolina, pesawat lalu mendarat di ibu kota Washington DC pada pukul 22 malam waktu setempat. Salah satu yang berbeda adalah penggunaan kode panggilan Order 01, yang mana menurut data penerbangan kode itu bukan kode panggilan biasa, yakni Order 6. Pesawat Boeing E-4B Nightwatch bisa menampung kru hingga 112 orang dengan jangkauan lebih dari 11.000 km. Pesawat itu mampu menahan ledakan nuklir, serangan cyber, dan efek elektromagnetik. Selain itu dilengkapi juga dengan pelindung termal dan nuklir, serta dapat berkomunikasi dengan siapapun dan dimanapun. Di dalam pesawat itu ada 18 tempat tidur, ruang briefing, area kerja tim, ruang konferensi, ruang komando, dan area istirahat. Dirancang sebagai pentagon terbang, pesawat Hari Kiamat AS bisa terbang di udara selama 1 minggu penuh tanpa mendarat dan bisa mengisi bahan bakar di udara. Pesawat Hari Kiamat AS terpantau terbang usai Trump menuntut Iran menyerah tanpa syarat di tengah meningkatnya konflik antara Iran dan Israel. Trump juga tengah berpikir untuk menyerang fasilitas nuklir Iran. Sementara pemimpin tertinggi Iran Ayatollah Ali Khamenei menolak seruan Trump untuk menyerah pada Rabu 18 Juni 2025.
Korea Utara dinilai tak akan tinggal diam atas tindakan Amerika Serikat yang menyerang fasilitas nuklir Iran hari ini, Minggu 22 Juni 2025. Meski demikian, Korea diyakini masih akan mengutamakan perdamaian sebelum bertindak secara langsung. Pernyataan ini disampaikan oleh pengamat hubungan internasional Universitas Parahyangan Kisino Bawono. Kisino menyebut jika dilihat dari geopolitiknya, kemungkinan Korea tak akan tinggal diam. Tanya Korea, Rusia dan Cina juga dinilai akan melakukan hal serupa. Meski demikian, Kisino yakin ketiga negara yang juga memiliki senjata nuklir tersebut masih ingin penyelesaian secara damai. Menurutnya, ketiga negara tersebut ingin kekuatan dan posisi Amerika Serikat dilemahkan sehingga menarik diri dari perang. Meski begitu, tidak diketahui apa yang dilakukan Rusia, Cina, dan Korea di belakang. Sebelumnya, Rusia dan Cina telah memberikan reaksinya terhadap serangan Amerika Serikat terhadap Iran. Juru bicara Kementerian Luar Negeri Tiongkok menilai tindakan militer Amerika Serikat dinilai serius melanggar tujuan dan prinsip piagam PBB. Cina mengimbau semua pihak yang berkonflik, terutama Israel, untuk segera menghentikan permusuhan. Rusia juga mendesak PBB untuk segera mengambil tindakan.
Download Tribun X sekarang. Menghadirkan lokal menjadi Indonesia.
Hello everyone, glad to see you again. In this video I propose to see point by point the essential parameters to make a fire without getting spotted. So, I have to thank here all the interns who came this summer and all the interns who have already signed up for the winter internships of 2025 in February, March, and April. So, I didn't set up many dates for this season, but it was mainly to respond to all the requests I had for winter internships that could be complementary to those of this summer. But let's get back to our topic now. As a preamble, I must tell you that you will need to be very careful when you decide to make a fire, and that you will always, of course, need to respect the regulations for the area in question. I'm posting this video because I've noticed that there are big gaps, a big general lack of knowledge about so-called smokeless fires. However, in survival situations, it's important to know how to make them properly depending on the circumstances. Why? Because sometimes it's possible to find yourself in survival conditions in a hostile area or in ambiguous situations, and to have no other choice but to keep a low profile, often abroad. For example, in these cases, the basic rule is obviously not to make a fire. Sometimes there are situations where it will be necessary, when we have no other choice but to boil water, for example, to decontaminate it, or to warm up after being in cold water, for example. In these situations, fire will be crucial. Act swiftly and discreetly. So, there will be
סליחה, אתה ממד"א? לאנגלית? זה אני.
דרור הוא לא הבית. לא, רק אני. רק אני.
What we have over here is a rocket attack on Haifa city. Our ambulances and intensive care unit rushed to the scene. We discovered over here 4 minor wounded and 2 people with anxiety reaction. That's it. Our EMTs and paramedics rushed them to the hospital within 10 minutes, and thank God that's everything for now. One of my volunteers lives over here in the building behind us. He was minor wounded. He left everything, gave first aid, and only after the event he went to the hospital to check himself. Other than that, everything is okay.
Ulo abay. Ulo. Akan na. Akan.
As you can see behind me, we're in the center of Israel, center division of Israel. A missile fire hit right inside of a building complex behind me. We've already transported around 5 injured, still treating here wounded around us. Thankfully nothing that severe, but minutes after the blast was heard, we've already made our way on scene, and we'll keep on treating. Even though we tell people, stay inside, listen to home front command, we have to make sure we can get out as fast as possible, so sadly we can't do that.
כל צוותי הרפואה, אני מבקש מכם לפנות פה את השביל, לעבור לצד השני מאחורי המסורת.
סליחה, אתה ממד"א? לאנגלית? לאנגלית.
Media pemerintah Iran mengonfirmasi 3 situs nuklir Teheran diserang pada Sabtu 21 Juni. Iran pun menggaungkan serangan balasan selesai 3 lokasi nuklirnya diserang Amerika Serikat. Warga Amerika Serikat pun akan menjadi target sah serangan Teheran. Dikutip dari IRNA Internasional, hal itu disampaikan media pemerintah Iran pada Minggu 22 Juni 2025. Teheran menolak perdamaian yang digaungkan oleh Donald Trump. Sebaliknya, Iran mengklaim pertempuran justru baru saja dimulai. Bahkan Iran akan melancarkan serangan lebih kejam agar Amerika Serikat memahami konsekuensi dan kecerobohannya. Tak hanya itu, media Iran menyebut setidaknya 50.000 tentara Amerika Serikat berada dalam jangkauan Iran. Pemimpin tertinggi Iran pun berjanji akan memenangkan perang dengan Amerika Serikat maupun Israel. Diketahui Amerika Serikat menggunakan pesawat pengebom siluman B-2 untuk menyerang nuklir Teheran pada Sabtu 21 Juni. Trump pun menyerukan perdamaian seusai mengklaim pasukan Amerika Serikat berhasil menghancurkan 3 situs nuklir Teheran.
Download Tribun X sekarang. Menghadirkan lokal menjadi Indonesia.
What we have over here is a rocket attack on Haifa city. Our ambulances and intensive care unit rushed to the scene. We discovered over here 4 minor wounded and 2 people with anxiety reaction. That's it. Our EMTs and paramedics rushed them to the hospital within 10 minutes. And thank God, that's everything for now. One of my volunteers lives over here in the building behind us. He was minor wounded. He left everything, gave first aid, and only after the event, we went to the hospital to check himself. Other than that, everything is okay.
As you can see behind me, we're in the center of Israel, center division of Israel. A missile fire hit right inside of a building complex behind me. We've already transported around 5 injured, still treating here wounded around us. Thankfully, nothing that severe, but minutes after the blast was heard, we've already made our way on scene, and we'll keep on treating. Even though we tell people, stay inside, listen to home front command, we have to make sure we can get out as fast as possible, so sadly we can't do that.
Unlock the GoDaddy Aero experience when you purchase a domain from GoDaddy and let AI do the heavy lifting for you. Find a great domain name, build a website, create a logo, and more, all fueled by the power of AI. Use GoDaddy Aero to help you build your business online.
Zone in the west with the growing arsenal of ballistic. This one out.
Buat website praktis dengan AI Website Builder Hostinger. Tulis konsep website, lalu tunggu AI buat website. AI bisa atur warna, gambar,
Selamat malam, Aumania.
Di tengah berbagai konflik yang terjadi pada tahun 2025, muncul pertanyaan status 10 negara yang paling aman. India. Negara pertama, meski bukan negara ya Tribuners, ini ada Antartika, benua paling selatan yang luas, kini mendapat tempat di daftar ini karena keterpencilannya yang ekstrim, terkenal karena pemandangannya yang menakjubkan dan medan esnya. Benua ini kemudian kemungkinan besar tidak akan didatangi oleh banyak orang mengingat posisinya sebagai titik paling selatan di planet ini. Kemudian ada Fiji di urutan kedua, terletak di Samudra Pasifik yang luas. Fiji berdiri sebagai negara kepulauan yang terisolasi dengan jumlah penduduk yang sedikit dan komitmen terhadap kebijakan luar negeri yang tenang. Hutannya yang hijau, sumber daya mineral yang melimpah, dan daerah penangkapan ikan yang melimpah menjadikan Fiji tempat perlindungan yang menarik di tengah ketidakpastian global, menyediakan tempat berlindung yang damai jauh dari potensi ancaman. Kemudian di urutan ketiga ada Islandia. Tempat ini secara konsisten menduduki puncak daftar indeks perdamaian global yang menjadikan Islandia sebagai surga terpencil Tribuners. Dengan cadangan air tawar yang melimpah, energi terbarukan, dan sumber daya laut, Islandia mencapai swasembada, mengurangi kekhawatiran tentang ketergantungan pada negara lain untuk sumber daya penting. Kemudian Tribuners di urutan keempat ada Greenland, sementara Denmark, bagian dari Uni Eropa dan NATO, mungkin menghadapi beban perang yang meletus di Eropa. Greenland, negara konstituen yang otonom, tetap jauh berpihak secara politik. Daerah pegunungannya yang terpencil menjadikannya lokasi yang menguntungkan untuk bertahan hidup jika terjadi serangan. Kemudian di urutan kelima ada Selandia Baru dengan demokrasinya yang stabil dan sejarahnya yang bebas dari konflik perang, berdiri sebagai negara maju yang tersembunyi. Dengan tanah yang subur, air bersih, dan kemampuan untuk menghasilkan makanannya sendiri, daerah pegunungan Selandia Baru menawarkan tempat berlindung alami dalam menghadapi potensi invasi. Kemudian di urutan keenam ada Bhutan, dikelilingi oleh pegunungan Himalaya. Lokasi unik Bhutan menyediakan tempat berlindung yang sangat baik, tersembunyi dan terhindar dari potensi ancaman. Dengan komitmen terhadap kemerdekaan asing dan menghindari keterlibatan diplomatik, Bhutan tetap menjadi target yang tidak masuk akal untuk invasi. Kemudian di urutan ketujuh ada Irlandia. Meskipun dekat dengan potensi konflik di Inggris, Irlandia mempertahankan kebijakan luar negeri yang sepenuhnya independen dan tidak menjadi anggota NATO. Kenetralan militernya dan persyaratan persetujuan pemerintah serta otorisasi PBB untuk konflik luar negeri menjadikan Irlandia sebagai entitas negara yang netral. Kemudian di urutan ke-8 ada Swiss yang terkenal dengan kenetralan politiknya begitu. Swiss memiliki daerah pegunungan, geografi yang terkurung daratan, dan banyak tempat perlindungan nuklir di sana. Bahkan jika senjata nuklir mendarat di sana, penduduk Swiss terlindungi dengan baik dengan bunker dan dikelilingi oleh pegunungan, sehingga menciptakan pertahanan yang tangguh terhadap negara-negara tetangga yang dilanda perang. Kemudian Tribuners yang menarik di urutan ke-9 ini ada Indonesia. Dimasukkannya Indonesia dalam daftar ini bermula dari posisi netralnya dalam masalah politik global yang diwujudkan oleh kebijakan luar negeri yang bebas dan aktif. Indonesia berfokus pada tindakan independen dalam urusan internasional dan berkomitmen untuk membina perdamaian global. Kemudian di urutan terakhir ada Tuvalu, terletak di hamparan luas Samudra Pasifik. Tuvalu adalah negara yang sangat terpencil dan tidak berpihak secara politik. Populasinya yang sangat kecil dan sumber daya yang tidak signifikan tidak memberikan insentif bagi negara-negara besar yang terlibat dalam perang dunia untuk menyerangnya. Dengan kemandiriannya yang unik, penduduk Tuvalu memproduksi makanan dan kebutuhan mereka sendiri yang menjamin kemandirian dan kemungkinan isolasi mereka dalam skenario perang. Itu tadi Tribuners 10 daftar negara yang kemungkinan bisa ditinggali gitu ya ketika Perang Dunia III ini benar-benar terjadi. Kita pun berharap ya Tribuners, semoga Perang Dunia ketiga ini tidak terjadi begitu di dunia.
Hey there, welcome to Ali Drop.
Seluruh pangkalan Amerika Serikat di Timur Tengah bisa dijangkau. Iran punya berbagai senjata, berbagai rudal yang potensial untuk menghancurkan pangkalan Amerika Serikat itu. Iran punya pakar nuklir itu jumlahnya sangat banyak. Perang ini akan menjustifikasi Iran untuk membuat bom. Dia akan menyadari bahwa ternyata gua harus punya bom nuklir. Iran ini punya pengalaman 8 tahun perang tanpa henti dan dia survive gitu 8 tahun. Kelangsungan hidup Israel itu bergantung pada dukungan Amerika Serikat. Kalau perang berkepanjangan, Israel akan menyerah atau ada kudeta di Israel atau dijatuhkan ya Netanyahu ini.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sobat Madilo, pada perang Iran-Israel kali ini, yang mengemuka ke permukaan bukanlah soal negara mana yang paling kuat, tetapi yang mengemuka di benak kita adalah negara mana yang paling takut ketika satu negara yang merdeka menjaga martabat. Israel dengan restu penuh Amerika menyerang Iran, menyebabkan sekian banyak nyawa melayang. Dan setelah itu Iran dengan penuh keyakinan melakukan serangan balas. Karena apa yang ada di benak Iran barangkali adalah penjajahan, sama sekali tak bisa dibiarkan. Kita akan mencoba mengulas persoalan ini lebih detail dengan seorang yang kita tahu kredibilitasnya, kita tahu track recordnya. Beliau adalah Pak Smith Al-Hadar. Beliau adalah seorang pengamat Timur Tengah sekaligus seorang yang pernah lama sekitar 20 tahun menjadi staf kedutaan besar Iran. Selamat bertemu di Madilong, Pak Smith.
Selamat bertemu, saya senang sekali bisa diundang ke Madilong ini.
Ya, terima kasih sekali Pak Smith. Ya, kami perlu Bapak karena sobat-sobat Madilong tentu saja ingin ingin satu pandangan yang jernih dan objektif tentang ini semua. Saya akan mulai dengan satu pertanyaan saja, Pak. Seberapa mungkin, seberapa potensial perang Iran-Israel ini memicu peluit pada perang dunia III?
Saya tidak melihat bahwa perang ini akan membesar dan kemudian melibatkan negara-negara regional maupun negara-negara besar yang akan menuju kepada perang dunia ketiga atau perang besar. Ini karena Amerika Serikat walaupun dia mendukung Israel, tapi dia menahan diri untuk sekarang ini terlibat langsung dengan
peperangan ini.
Ya, dalam perang ini. Itu karena memang berbahaya sekali kalau mereka ikut terlibat.
di dalam Partai Republik, pendukung Donald Trump sendiri itu terpecah karena mereka sebagian melihat bahwa perang ini tidak ada hubungan dengan kepentingan Amerika Serikat. Amerika Serikat kan kita tahu Trump ini terkenal dengan slogannya America First gitu. Nah, artinya kepentingan Amerika Serikat pertimbangan yang paling utama. Nah, dan dalam perang ini itu tidak ada hubungannya dengan kepentingan nasional Amerika Serikat dalam hal ini. Nah, berbeda dengan dia waktu tahun 2020. Tahun 2020 dia berkuasa dari tahun 2017 sampai 2021. Itu memang ada kepentingan Amerika Serikat saat itu karena negara-negara Arab, terutama negara Arab Teluk itu mengkhawatirkan perkembangan pembuatan senjata di Iran. Sehingga bagi mereka memaksa Iran untuk melepaskan program nuklirnya itu harus dilakukan sedapat mungkin. Tapi dalam perang sekarang ini itu negara-negara Arab sudah berdamai dengan Iran. Tahun 2023 itu Saudi Arabia dan Iran sudah menormalisasi hubungan. Begitu juga dengan negara-negara Arab yang lain, Bahrain dan Uni Emirat Arab. Dan mereka kini melihat bahwa Israel justru yang menjadi negara yang akan membuat Timur Tengah menjadi tidak stabil atau
biang kerok lah ya.
Iya, biang keroknya itu. Nah, ini terkait dengan Gaza. Bagaimana kita melihat genosida, ethnic cleansing, kejahatan perang dan segala macam Israel terhadap Palestina. Nah, jadi mereka sekarang ini justru meninggalkan Israel sebagai negara pariah sekarang ini. Nah, kalau tahun 2020 dengan hasutan Israel mengklaim bahwa dia mempunyai bukti-bukti kuat bahwa Iran mempunyai program nuklir ini, Iran itu akan membuat bomnya. Nah, kita tahu bahwa Iran itu adalah anggota NPT atau Traktat
Non-Proliferasi
Nuklir. Untuk itu Iran punya hak untuk melakukan program nuklirnya, tapi untuk keperluan sipil. Nah, tahun 2015 Iran setuju untuk
diperiksa lah ya,
mengurangi pengayaan uraniumnya itu, dan disetujui pada waktu itu Iran hanya bisa memperkaya uraniumnya 3,67% gitu. Nah, ini kadar yang cukup untuk keperluan sipil gitu. Nah, tapi tahun 2018 Donald Trump mundur dari kesepakatan itu.
Betul.
Nah, ketika Donald Trump
pada periode pertama itu, Pak ya?
Ya, periode pertama itu. Nah, Israel kecewa juga negara-negara Arab Teluk pada waktu itu karena mereka menganggap waktu 2015 itu Barack Obama ya waktu itu deal dengan Iran yang disebut dengan Iran kesepakatan itu antara Iran dengan
Job Fund kalau nggak salah ya? Job Fund atau apa namanya, lupa saya. kesepakatan itu? Itu apa ya?
Namanya itu apa nih? Ini rencana aksi komprehensif bersama. Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. JCPOA.
Ya, itu yang saya katakan tadi dengan seenaknya Jokpan itu.
JCPOA itu. Jadi Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action.
Iya, betul.
Nah, itu disepakati pada waktu itu tahun 2015 Iran dengan P5+1. P5 ini negara-negara yang mempunyai hak veto di PBB plus Jerman. Nah, tapi Israel pada waktu itu kecewa juga negara Arab Teluk karena dalam kesepakatan itu Iran dibebaskan menjual minyaknya ke pasar global. Gitu.
Sebagai bagian dari itu kan, sebagai bagian dari tawar-menawar itu kan, kalau saya salah, betul.
Nah, bagi mereka dengan kebebasan Iran menjual minyak dan gasnya ke luar negeri, maka dia mempunyai keleluasaan untuk memperkuat proksi-proksinya di Timur Tengah.
Hizbullah
di Lebanon, kemudian Houthi, kemudian di Irak itu pokoknya perjanjian itu tidak disambut lah oleh ini. Tapi pada waktu itu pertimbangannya ini realistis pertimbangannya.
Ini kan kita selalu melihat bahwa yang namanya Donald Trump itu kadang-kadang juga tidak mengikuti common sense. Common sense kita mengatakan, tadi Bapak mengatakan, kecil kemungkinan Amerika akan membantu. Tapi dengan Donald Trump yang kadang-kadang anti common sense itu, mungkin nggak sebetulnya dia tiba-tiba, apalagi sudah ada yang menghibah-hibah tuh, Netanyahu minta-minta agar Amerika terlibat.
Amerika Serikat hanya akan terlibat kalau eksistensi Israel terancam, itu saja. Nah, sekarang ini kaum Republik yang tadinya hawkish, itu agak lebih moderat dibandingkan dengan tahun yang periode pertama itu. Itu hawkishnya lebih keras malah. Nah, saat ini itu para hawkish yang lebih moderat itu tidak menginginkan Amerika Serikat terjun langsung di dalam perang ini.
Apakah karena Amerika juga secara finansial, secara ini kan sedang kayak zaman Turki, the segment of Europe. Amerika kan banyak pengangguran lah, banyak begitu. Apa itu juga menjadi salah satu sebab?
Sebab utamanya itu kenaikan harga minyak. Iran itu kan dia menguasai Selat Hormuz.
Ya, Selat Hormuz.
Dan dia juga berada di sebelah timur.
Amerika Serikat resmi melancarkan serangan ke Iran dengan membombardir 3 fasilitas nuklir utama pada Minggu 22 Juni 2025. Presiden Amerika Serikat Donald Trump mengklaim bahwa serangan ke Natanz, Isfahan, dan Fordo itu merupakan keberhasilan besar dan momen bersejarah bagi negaranya, Israel, dan dunia. Ia menegaskan bahwa Iran kini harus segera menyudahi perang. Perdana Menteri Israel Benjamin Netanyahu menyambut positif langkah tersebut dan menyebutnya sebagai keputusan berani yang akan mengubah arah sejarah. Ia kembali menekankan prinsip perdamaian melalui kekuatan yang selama ini digaungkan bersama Trump. Sementara itu, kecaman terhadap serangan Amerika Serikat datang dari berbagai belahan dunia. Sekretaris Jenderal PBB Antonio Guterres memperingatkan bahwa tindakan tersebut berisiko memperburuk instabilitas kawasan dan berpotensi memicu krisis global. Guterres menilai konflik ini hanya dapat diselesaikan melalui jalur diplomasi, bukan kekuatan militer. Kecaman serupa juga disampaikan oleh Venezuela, Kuba, dan Meksiko. Pemerintah Venezuela menyebut serangan itu sebagai bentuk agresi militer yang membahayakan stabilitas dunia. Presiden Kuba, Miguel Diaz-Canel, menyatakan bahwa serangan tersebut melanggar hukum internasional dan piagam PBB serta dapat membawa dampak serius bagi kemanusiaan. Adapun Kementerian Luar Negeri Meksiko menyerukan segera dimulainya dialog diplomatik demi meredakan ketegangan di Timur Tengah. Kelompok-kelompok non-negara turut menyuarakan penolakan. Hamas menyebut serangan Amerika Serikat sebagai bentuk dukungan terang-terangan terhadap agenda Zionis dan menyatakan solidaritas penuh kepada Iran. Sedangkan kelompok Houthi di Yaman memperingatkan bahwa Amerika Serikat harus siap menanggung konsekuensi dari serangan tersebut. Hingga berita ini ditulis, sebagian besar negara, termasuk di kawasan Teluk, belum menyampaikan sikap resmi terkait perkembangan terbaru ini.
Hey video creator, with Artlist, you'll get everything your videos need. And now, a video generator built especially for you, the creator. Choose from curated styles, to easily take your ideas out of your head and into your videos. All covered by the right license for you. So go to Artlist and create without limits.
Ya pemirsa, setelah Amerika Serikat melakukan penyerangan di 3 situs nuklir Iran ini, lantas akankah eskalasi akan semakin meningkat ke depannya? Kita akan langsung bahas bersama dengan narasumber yang sudah hadir di studio. Di sebelah saya sudah ada Pak Teguh Reza Syah yang merupakan pengamat hubungan internasional dari UNPAD. Selamat malam Pak Reza.
Selamat malam, salam dari Bandung.
Salam dari Bandung, terima kasih sudah hadir di Apa Kabar Indonesia Malam. Kemudian juga di sebelahnya ada Bang Faisal Assegaf yang merupakan pengamat Timur Tengah. Bang Faisal,
Ya,
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Baik, saya mungkin ke Pak Reza terlebih dahulu. Serangan sudah dilakukan oleh Amerika Serikat pada tadi pagi ya, jam 3 dini hari waktu Jakarta, waktu Indonesia begitu. Anda melihat latar belakang dari penyerangan Amerika ini sebenarnya apa, Pak Reza?
Kalau saya menempatkan diri sebagai masyarakat Iran, ini kita banyak perspektif ya. Yang dilakukan adalah setan besar atau syaitanul akbar membantu setan kecil, syaitanul asgor. Kami menang lawan setan kecil, kalau kata masyarakat Iran, tapi kami kalah, sementara masih kalah dulu dengan setan besar. Dan memang ini terbukti, ini nggak mudah. Ini harus dibuka ini kepada publik ini. Apakah pesawat B-2 siluman itu datangnya dari pangkalan mana dari Amerika Serikat? Dan pasti dia transit dulu di suatu wilayah di Timur Tengah, istilahnya refueling, kemudian juga checking perangkat-perangkat perang, baru dia nyerang kan. Dan juga harus dicek juga dari negara-negara Teluk tersebut, negara Arab tersebut, Timur Tengah tersebut, siapa yang mengizinkan pesawat tersebut lewat dan sebenarnya bisa mengganggu tapi tidak mengganggu. Ini akan menjadi catatan sangat penting bagi Iran. Dan memang terbukti Amerika Serikat menggunakan teknologi yang jauh lebih tinggi daripada teknologi dipakai oleh Israel kemarin. Sebelumnya Israel itu menyerang lewat roket ataupun lewat bom seri seri BLU 109 yang hanya bisa menghancurkan 10 feet saja. Kemudian Israel juga mencoba lewat GBU 28 yang bisa mencapai hanya 220 feet. Tapi ini kali Amerika menggunakan US bunker busters dengan kedalaman sampai 60 meter. Itu kalau dibom sekali. Kalau dibom titik yang sama kali kedua itu 60 kali 2. Maka patut dipastikan itu ada hancur-hancuran karena bomnya itu sendiri beratnya 13.600 kilo dan warheadnya itu 2.700 kilo. Dan untuk itu kita dunia masih melihat yang jelas radiasi itu tidak kelihatan. Kalau tidak ada radiasi artinya itu serangan yang salah. Serangan yang dipaksakan untuk mendukung Israel tanpa referensi yang kuat. Patut dimengerti kenapa Donald Trump berbeda pandangan dengan kepala intelijen Amerika Serikat. Donald Trump mengatakan aku lebih tahu. Nah, ini kan membuka tabir lebih lanjut siapa yang bersama Donald Trump. Karena dengan Elon Musk saja nggak akur. Dengan wakil presiden juga tidak mesra. Jadi kemungkinan besar ini adalah keputusan dibuat sendiri tanpa restu dari Senat.
Termasuk keputusan 2 minggu yang seharusnya dilakukan 2 minggu begitu, tapi dilakukan penyerangan tersebut lebih cepat.
Amerika
ini pure keputusan dari Donald Trump?
Tampaknya Donald Trump bersikap sendiri ya, karena sesuai dengan aturan dengan hukum perang yang didesain oleh Sun Tzu dalam bukunya The Art of War, itu memang bikinlah informasi semembingungkan mungkin, yang bikin lawanmu bingung sedemikian rupa sehingga dia mereka-reka dan dia kehilangan energi dan dia lengah dan kita diserang pada saat itu. Jadi tampaknya Iran sedang hitung-hitung apakah pemboman ini daya rusaknya seperti apa. Karena ada indikator misalnya tunnel entrance, itu apakah hancur, kemudian electrical substation hancur, kemudian fuel enrichment apakah hancur, kemudian underground enrichment program hancur. Jadi Iran masih menghitung-hitung sedahsyat apa sih serangan Amerika Serikat tersebut, dan tentunya kan menyangkut ego pimpinan Iran. Siapa kita punya ego kok. Apakah dia merasa perlu dibalas atau enggak? Tampaknya juga Amerika Serikat dan Israel.
Saya pikir membuat website itu mahal, harus belajar sendiri dari nol. Tapi Hostinger bikin semuanya jadi jauh lebih simpel. Bapak saya ingin membangun villa, karena bidang saya di interior design, saya mulai brainstorming, saya mulai menggambar. Dari situ kami mulai exchange ideas. Sepupu saya mengenalkan saya dengan Hostinger, dan dari estetik itu langsung klik buat saya. desain interior harus perfeksionis. Tools yang disediakan di Hostinger website builder tersebut bisa mengemas villa saya menjadi versi digital. Dan karena toolsnya sudah sangat simple, it's a no-brainer. Pasti saya milih Hostinger website builder.
Give your business the best address online with GoDaddy's range of domain names. Choose from tons of domain names and fresh domain extensions to help make your business stand out from the crowd.
Bingung apakah Iran akan melakukan pembalasan untuk di hari.
Tapi itu sudah masuk perhitungan pastinya ya. Ketika Iran dengan kita ketahui kekuatan militernya yang juga tidak bisa diragukan begitu, ini nantinya akan membalas Amerika, ini juga akan dipertimbangkan oleh Amerika?
CIA punya kalkulasi, punya skenario. Tapi yang tidak mereka ketahui adalah bagaimana konstruksi berpikir pemimpin Iran, yakni Ali Khamenei dan Presiden Pezeshkian. Itu mereka tidak tahu. Dan saya pikir pimpinan Iran itu bukan pimpinan yang terpilih sembarangan kan. Mereka punya kaliber tinggi, intellectual quotient, spiritual quotient, emotional quotient, leadership quotient, managerial quotient. Ini adalah benar-benar pemimpin yang sangat terpilih.
Baik. Saya bergeser ke Bang Faisal. Bang Faisal, seberapa besar Anda melihat adanya kemungkinan ya perang terbuka antara Iran dengan koalisi Amerika Serikat dan juga Israel ini?
Ya, sebelum sampai ke situ saya ingin menegaskan dulu bahwa Amerika melakukan kesalahan untuk kedua kalinya. Sebelumnya mereka berbohong ketika menumbangkan rezim Saddam Hussein pada 2003 itu dengan alasan punya senjata pemusnah massal. Nah sekarang Amerika berbohong lagi kepada dunia bahwa Iran sedang sedang membuat senjata nuklir. Padahal kita tahu tim inspeksi dari Badan Tenaga Atom Internasional IAEA sudah menyatakan belum ada bukti. Bahkan Direktur Komunitas Intelijen Nasionalnya Amerika seperti disebutkan Pak Reza tadi, tidak ada bukti Iran punya bom nuklir. Artinya kan Amerika kembali berbohong, khususnya ini Presiden Donald Trump berbohong kepada dunia bahwa Iran sedang mengembangkan senjata nuklir sebagai ancaman bagi kedamaian dunia. Terus apakah Iran nanti akan membalas? Sebenarnya Iran punya 4 pilihan. Satu pilihan udah dilakukan, ya ini terus menyerang Israel. Jadi 4 jam setelah serangan terhadap 3 fasilitas nuklir Iran, itu Iran membalas ke Tel Aviv dan Haifa. Itu bahkan mereka untuk pertama kali menggunakan peluru kendali paling mematikannya Iran namanya Khorramshahr 4 atau Khaybar. Nah itu kita lihat Tel Aviv, Haifa juga luluh lantak. Kemudian juga ada pusat pengembangan senjata biologi dan kimia Israel itu di daerah Nosazei, saya lupa namanya, itu sekitar 20 km dari Tel Aviv hancur. Kemudian juga fasilitas nuklir Sorek punyanya Israel juga dihantam oleh peluru kendali Iran. Nah ada 3 lagi opsi yang bisa dilakukan Iran sebagai respon terhadap serangan Amerika dini hari tadi, yaitu menutup Selat Hormuz, menyerang semua pangkalan Amerika di Timur Tengah, dan satu lagi adalah keluar dari NPT, Perjanjian Proliferasi Nuklir, Non-Proliferasi Nuklir. Iran sebenarnya sudah menunjukkan niat baik, makanya mereka bergabung dengan NPT. Berbeda dengan Israel yang tidak pernah mau bergabung dengan NPT.
Oke, baik. Untuk tadi sudah disinggung ya, penutupan Selat Hormuz ini mungkin sekali dilakukan. Ini nanti konsekuensinya akan seperti apa? Mungkin bisa diberikan gambarannya, Bang Faisal.
Ya, Selat Hormuz ini salah satu jalur pelayaran penting dunia. Itu sekitar 20% suplai bahan bakar dunia itu lewat Selat Hormuz. Itu setiap hari itu bisa belasan, 15 sampai 16 kapal tanker ya masing-masing bisa membawa 1 juta liter minyak bumi. Nah, ini tentu akan mengganggu pasokan minyak bumi dunia, Eropa, ya Amerika dan lain-lain. Dan hal ini juga akan meningkatkan harga minyak global. Nantinya mungkin bisa lebih dari 100 kalau memang itu dilakukan oleh Iran.
Oke, baik. Indikasi nyata bahwa nanti perang ini akan menjadi perang regional begitu ya, yang kemudian ini melibatkan negara-negara Teluk, kemudian juga Turki dan juga Rusia. Ini seperti apa, Bang Faisal?
Kalau misalkan Israel menutup Selat Hormuz itu yang rugi banyak pihak kan, ya, termasuk eksportir karena mereka kapal harus mutar, itu ongkosnya lebih mahal. Ya, efeknya tadi harga naik. Terus kemudian pasokan telat, pasti semua dunia berteriak akan hal itu. Kalau misalkan Iran menutup Selat Hormuz. Yang kedua, kalau misalkan Iran juga menyerang pangkalan militer Amerika di Timur Tengah, Itu kan pangkalan ada antara lain di 6 negara Arab Teluk. Arab Saudi, UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman. Itu selain itu punya efek domestik ke negara masing-masing kalau itu diserang. Pertama apalah? Karena negara-negara kerajaan itu sendiri menggantungkan keberlangsungan rezimnya terhadap dukungan militer Amerika. Kalau misalkan pangkalan militer itu hancur, tidak ada lagi dukungan militer Amerika atau kehadiran militer Amerika di sebuah negara Arab Teluk itu sendiri, ya revolusi bisa saja pecah di sana. Karena kita tahu ketika terjadi revolusi Arab 2010 sampai 2011 itu mereka ketar-ketir. Makanya bisnis atau kontrak pembelian senjata itu 6 negara Arab Teluk itu sangat besar dengan Amerika ketika terjadi revolusi Arab di Timur Tengah. Nah, terus kemudian kalau Iran keluar dari NPT, artinya Iran tidak lagi terikat untuk tidak membuat senjata nuklir, kan itu efeknya. Nah ini yang ditakutkan oleh Israel terutama, karena Israel kan menganggap Iran ini sebagai ancaman keberlangsungan mereka di Timur Tengah, eksistensi mereka di Timur Tengah ini ancamannya adalah Iran.
Bang Faisal mungkin boleh dijabarkan kembali ya, kalaupun nanti Iran ini akan melakukan serangan balasan begitu ya, akan dilakukan sendiri atau melalui proksi-proksinya, misalnya dengan melalui Houthi ataupun juga Hizbullah begitu ya. Ini akan seperti apa?
Sebelum sampai situ saya mau menyatakan bahwa informasi lain tuh menyebut bahwa apa yang dilakukan serangan Amerika itu serangan simbolik. Kenapa simbolik? Pertama, Iran sudah mengkonfirmasi tadi seperti disebut Pak Reza, tidak ada kebocoran radioaktif. Kemudian juga Iran menyatakan semua uranium yang diperkaya skala tinggi sudah dipindahkan ke tempat rahasia. Terus kemudian yang rusak, jadi tidak ada kerusakan signifikan di Fordo, karena ini fasilitas nuklir yang penting buat Iran, paling penting dari semua fasilitas nuklir. Itu tidak ada yang rusak, kabarnya cuma pintu masuk dan pintu keluar. Nah, terus informasinya adalah bahan peledak yang digunakan dalam menyerang itu adalah seberat 30 ton. Ini aneh, karena Antonio Grossi, Direktur IAEA pernah bilang fasilitas Fordo ini berada 840 meter di bawah permukaan tanah. Nah sedangkan ketika mengebom bunker yang waktu itu ada Hasan Nasrallah yang kemudian tewas 27 September tahun lalu di Beirut, itu Israel menggunakan 80 ton hanya untuk menghantam bunker sedalam 60 meter. Artinya untuk menghantam bunker sedalam fasilitas nuklir sedalam 840 meter itu butuh ratusan ton bahan peledak. Nah ini makanya informasi lain menyebutkan ya ini adalah serangan simbolik Amerika. Kenapa Amerika harus melakukan serangan ini? Makanya setelah serangan Trump kan menyebut ayo segera hentikan perang, kembali ke meja perundingan. Ini adalah taktik Trump untuk menyelamatkan wajah Netanyahu.
Upgrade ke jilat Blue Refleksi. Mata pisau peka di kulit. Jangan cukur perih abangku.
Hey, how's that New Year's resolution going?
What are you talking about?
You know, that YouTube channel you say you're gonna start?
Well, yeah, I'd like to, but editing's really hard and coming up with a thumbnail stresses me out and thinking of content ideas.
I don't do any of that. I use TubeBuddy.
What?
TubeBuddy. It does everything for you. SEO optimization, helps you with your thumbnail, video topic planner.
Well, I have ideas.
Yeah, but TubeBuddy gives you niche insights, which means that they know which topics actually get views. And get this, TubeBuddy's related video manager allows me to link my videos across all of my shorts instantly. Instantly. TubeBuddy has everything. It helps creators like you start your YouTube channel and stay consistent so you can actually follow through on your New Year's resolution.
Wow, this is so awesome. I had no idea TubeBuddy existed. I'm gonna go try it today.
Netanyahu, karena hakikatnya Israel sudah kalah. Tel Aviv hancur. Siapa yang pernah membayangkan Tel Aviv seperti Gaza atau Khan Yunis atau Rafah? Haifa, kota perdagangan.
Sehingga Amerika harus bergerak begitu ya?
Nah iya, jadi memang ini salah satu taktik supaya Iran mau menghentikan serangan terhadap Israel. Jadi menyelamatkan muka Netanyahu, karena Israel yang mulai, Netanyahu yang memulai. Kan kalau dia yang memberhentikan artinya kan dia mengakui resmi kalah. Nah ini salah satu taktiknya.
Jadi bisa dipastikan bahwa kemungkinan besar dalam waktu dekat ini eskalasi akan menurun begitu dengan adanya serangan Israel ini, atau justru tadi sebaliknya yang sudah kita bahas bahwa Iran ini akan mati-matian untuk membela negaranya dengan melakukan serangan kembali begitu ya?
Saya kira ini kita memasuki babak eskalasi baru karena Amerika walaupun misalkan benar serangan itu simbolik, itu kan Amerika sudah terlibat intervensi militer walaupun ditentang oleh Kongres, tidak ada mandat Kongres. Ya saya kira ini akan
Okay. they going?
بدنا مش مضاد. لحظة شوي صوت.
اشتغلت. صوت
On those points, we are facing a situation which is as uncertain as it is unfortunately timed. Its consequences could be profoundly destabilizing, not only for the region, but for peace, for international peace and security. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, has warned in its resolutions that attacks on nuclear facilities constitute a risk because such attacks could trigger the release of radioactive material, this with grave consequences arising from radiological contamination. These risks are to the population, the environment, and could have an unprecedented regional impact. Fortunately, to date, recent events have not led to increases in radiation levels, and it is not expected that there will be consequences for the health of people or for the environment beyond the sites affected. This in accordance with what's been indicated by Iran, says the speaker. For its part, the International Atomic Energy Agency has stated that it will continue monitoring and evaluating the situation in Iran. We recognize the deft, skillful management by the IAEA. The Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, the NPT, is an essential pillar of international law. It has made a decisive contribution to the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons and to ensuring disarmament. Through the NPT, the international community has garnered greater assurances of stability and security, reducing the risks of nuclear weapons becoming a source of confrontation or conflict. We recognize that a lack of trust is a factor exacerbating this situation. However, we hope that some room might still remain for dialogue. We hope that this council will be able to play a constructive role to encourage that dialogue. To achieve that goal, we must all, as we can, urge the parties to find a solution which avoids civilian populations becoming victims of an even worse conflict. Madam President, Panama is a small country, but the responsible owner indeed, of a strategic interoceanic canal. We will always have recourse to international law as the pathway through which to resolve international disputes that could have global repercussions. As such, we support the immediate cessation of hostilities, with the goal of offering an opportunity to genuine dialogue, a dialogue which will allow us to build lasting and peaceful solutions to conflicts. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Panama for his statement, and I give the floor now to the representative of China.
Thank you, President. I thank you for convening this emergency open meeting. I also thank Secretary General Guterres for his statement, and ASD Yenta and Director General Grossi for their briefings. Yesterday, the United States conducted strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities in Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. China strongly condemns the U.S. attacks on Iran and the bombing of nuclear facilities under the safeguards of the IAEA. The actions of the United States seriously violate the purposes and principles of the UN Charter and international law, as well as Iran's sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity. It has exacerbated tensions in the Middle East and dealt a heavy blow to the international nuclear non-proliferation regime. The international community must uphold justice and make concrete efforts to cool down the situation and restore peace and stability. In this connection, I wish to put forward 4 appeals. First, we call for an immediate ceasefire and ending the hostilities. In the context of the abrupt escalation of tensions in the Middle East, China is deeply concerned about the risk of the situation getting out of control. The parties to the conflict, Israel in particular, should reach an immediate ceasefire to prevent a spiraling escalation and to resolutely avoid the spillover of the war. The parties concerned should abide by international law, curb the impulse to use force, and avoid exacerbating conflict.
You call that fucking nasty?
people of the countries in the region above everything else, and make every effort to avoid harm to innocent civilians and refrain from attacking civilian facilities. Third, we call for commitment to dialogue and negotiation. Peace in the Middle East cannot be achieved by the use of force. Dialogue and negotiation are the fundamental way out. At present, diplomatic means to address the Iranian nuclear issue haven't been exhausted, and there's still hope for a peaceful solution. Parties should stay firmly committed to the political settlement of the Iranian nuclear issue and work to bring it back onto the track of a political solution through dialogue and negotiation, with a view to reaching an agreement acceptable to all parties. Fourth, we call for swift actions by the Security Council. The Security Council has the primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security, and cannot stand idly by in the face of a major crisis. Russia, China, and Pakistan have proposed a draft resolution calling for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire, the protection of civilians, respect for international law, and engaging in dialogue and negotiation. We hope that Council members can demonstrate their strong sense of responsibility by jointly supporting the draft resolution to enable the Security Council to fulfill its responsibilities for the maintenance of international peace and security. China stands ready to work with the international community to foster synergy, uphold justice, and make unremitting efforts to restore peace and stability in the Middle East. Thank you, President.
I thank the representative of China for his statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Greece.
Thank you, Madam President. Let me start by thanking the Secretary General for his introductory remarks, as well as Assistant Secretary General Giencha and Director General Grossi for the informative and timely briefings. Madam President, this is the third time in 10 days that this Council has been convened in an emergency meeting, and rightfully so. The situation is now more dangerous than at any point since June 13th. What the Secretary General referred to as a defining moment for our collective future has now become a reality. We have taken note of the military action against nuclear-related sites in Iran and are monitoring with concern the evolving situation very closely. Madam President, allow me to raise the following 3 points. First, we reiterate our call upon all parties to show restraint. There is no need for more violence, especially given the potential grave consequences. It is critical for the AEAI inspectors to be able to resume their activity and check on the status of the stockpiles of the enriched uranium, as well as of the remaining enriching capabilities of Iran. This is essential as the global non-proliferation architecture and regional and potentially global security come under intense stress. Second, I must reiterate a strong concern over the nuclear program of Iran, which should never be allowed to have nuclear weapons. We have time and again warned against non-compliance with
single line trenches where it's maybe like a trench with a blindage on one end.
But if you're using it for like intermediate ranges around the city of Bakhmut, I was carrying it every day. Just fucking great, putting holes in people all the time, and it just puts them down, mate. They drop like a sack of shit when they go down with this.
Mankind has strived to defend themselves throughout all of human history. Now, prior to the internet, prior to information being so easily gotten, you were often surprised by your enemy. You didn't know what was coming. With the plethora of information that we have out now, we're able to be more prepared. There is currently a war going on in Ukraine where warfare is developing extremely rapidly.
You always wondered why that app didn't exist. Now you can make it. Meet Replit Agent. Want a custom workout plan? Make an app for that. Have a great idea at 2 a.m.? Make an app for that. Need to run an analysis? Or learn with your kids? Make an app for that too. This isn't just making apps. This is your imagination unleashed. Describe what you want. and watch it come to life. No coding experience, right from your phone. Made in
The war is far changed from anything I ever trained for from when I was in the military. And today we are lucky enough to have two men who are fighting Ukraine for the past 2 years who are going to be able to teach us many of the lessons learned that they have had, both kit-wise and for surviving the war, so that we can be better prepared. Now, to be clear, this is not a stopping point for learning about warfare, because certainly the war in Ukraine has changed a lot within the last 2 years, but it's important to glean as much information as we can. Whatever your political stance is, whatever you believe about the war in Ukraine, it doesn't matter, because no matter what, there are men fighting on the ground who have learned extremely important lessons. Drones alone have completely redefined the way warfare is being taught. So let's take this next hour and make sure that we take all this information that we can and that we educate ourselves. So today on Grantham, we're going to be talking about how to survive the war in Ukraine from men who have been there. Now, we have to give a big thank you to our sponsors. All this information is completely free thanks to them. So first one is going to be the Sonoran Desert Institute. They support us so that we can give you this free information. And if you're looking to get your start in gunsmithing, they are absolutely the people to go to. So go and check them out. Their classes are awesome. You're going to get a great education there. The Sonoran Desert Institute. And of course, who can we not forget, Micah?
Primary Arms.
So one thing that we have to say is that the optics that Primary Arms are making right now that you guys would consider budget optics, compared to the optics that we had in 2005, are absolutely incredible. And they also sell everything. So whatever you need, go and check them out. And of course, to get better at shooting, Mantis will turn your weapon into a dry fire machine. We absolutely recommend training dry fire. It is extremely important. And of course, AAC ammo for any shooting that we're going to be doing today. We're going to be using AAC. We can't thank them enough for allowing us to train to this level. So with all that being said, talk for me right now is going to be cheap. And we're going to learn from some people who have actually been there. So why should you listen to me to start off with? So my name is Michael Jones, former Air Force Special Warfare guy. Taught SEER for a while as a SEER specialist with TAC-P. That being said, the things that we trained to was primarily counterterrorism. At the very end of the career, we shifted focus to Russia and China, but there was no experience there because there was never a fight. That being said, we do have two individuals here who have been doing that fight for the last 2 years. So we'll go ahead and we'll bring them on. Gentlemen, please. And go ahead and introduce yourselves. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate you.
Pleasure.
Hey, thanks, man. Go ahead.
I spent 2 years in the British military, and then went on to do some contracting. For the last 2 years, I've been in Ukraine, in foreign modes.
Yeah, my background's a U.S. Army, Airborne Infantry, and then also spent the last 2 years working for the Legion of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine.
So you guys have been there for the last 2 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So what I thought we could start with, gentlemen, is if we could start with kits. The reason I want to start with kit is so specific to the conflict that you're in. The things that we prepared for when it came to the GWAT, as you're well aware, is completely different from a more conventional fight or the more trench warfare fight that you guys are seeing now. So there's going to be differences in the way that I set up my kit, my audience sets up their kit, compared to you guys who've been fighting for 2 full years now. Yeah. So there's a lot of really important information there. So if you guys get your kit down, let's go ahead and let's talk about it.
Start with the kit. This would be more of an assaulting role. I've used this setup for the past probably about 1.5 years, where I've tweaked it for the past different missions, but this is what I've come to. Obviously it depends on which role I'm doing. So like, I'm a sniper, trained sniper in Ukraine, and in my sniping roles I'll be using more broken down kit, like a more simplistic kit, so more of a like a slick blade carrier.
Basically
but for this is more of an assaulting role where I can keep as much as possible. So start off with, obviously got my my nods pouch. Keep it accessible. I don't want to keep it in my bag because people keep it in bags.
Okay.
Where are they going?
بدنا مش مضاد. لحظة شوي صوت.
اشتغلت.
صوت.
Amerika Serikat menyiagakan seluruh armada kapal perangnya di tengah memanasnya bara konflik Israel-Iran, salah satunya kapal induk USS Nimitz yang berlayar dari Laut Cina Selatan menuju kawasan Timur Tengah. Pergerakan ini pun diyakini sebagai langkah AS memperkuat pertahanannya, apalagi diketahui AS punya banyak persenjataan di wilayah Timur Tengah. CNN melaporkan mantan wakil kepala staf pasukan gabungan di Irak Stephen Anderson menyebut ada satu kapal perusak kelas Arleigh dan satu kapal penjelajah kelas Ticonderoga dalam gugus tempur laut atau Guspurla Nimitz. Guspurla juga mengangkut total 9 skuadron jet tempur, helikopter, serta pesawat lain. AS juga punya kapal lain di sekitar Iran. Ada 5 kapal perang dan 1 kapal pendukung tempur di pangkalan Bahrain, diantaranya USS Canberra, USS Sentry, USS Devastator, USS Gladiator, dan USS Dextrose. Ditempatkan juga MV Ocean Trader yang merupakan kapal pendukung tempur khusus yang dioperasikan Komando Lintas Laut Militer ALAS. Sementara di Laut Arab hingga Samudra India terpantau total 1 kapal induk dan 10 kapal perang lain, terpantau pula setidaknya 1 kapal selam USS Georgia. Kapal perang yang terlacak adalah USS Princeton, USS Sullivan, USS Milius, USS Truxtun, USS Sterret, USS Wayne Mayer, dan USS Ralph Johnson. Selain itu terlacak pula USS Amelia Earhart, USS Cesar Chavez, dan USS Guadalupe. Selain kapal laut, militer AS juga menyiagakan pesawat tempurnya. Tak hanya di geladak Nimitz dan Carl Vinson, AS juga punya skuadron A-10 Thunderbolt II di pangkalan darat di Timur Tengah. AS juga menyiagakan jet tempur F-16 dan F-15E di kawasan itu. AS juga mengoperasikan sejumlah pesawat nirawak baik untuk intai maupun serbu. Pesawat MQ-9 AS bolak-balik dijatuhkan Houthi dari Yaman. Sementara itu ada 3 rudal paling terkenal AS, Tomahawk, Hellfire, dan Harpoon. Tomahawk bisa ditembakkan dari peluncur darat dan laut. Versi lautnya bisa diluncurkan dari kapal perang dan kapal selam. AS berulang kali menembakkan Tomahawk untuk menyerang berbagai lokasi di Yaman. Sementara Hellfire ditembakkan dari berbagai pesawat tempur, berawak ataupun tidak. Adapun Harpoon terutama untuk menyerang kapal. Rudal Harpoon ada varian peluncur darat dan peluncur laut. Dari kapal-kapal perangnya, AS terutama mengandalkan Phalanx CIWS untuk menangkis serangan udara. AS juga mengembangkan Aegis versi laut dan darat sebagai pertahanan. Pada Oktober 2024, kapal perusak USS Bulkley menggunakan Aegis laut untuk menjatuhkan rudal Iran. Sementara di pangkalan darat, AS antara lain mengandalkan Sea Ram, artileri pertahanan udara atau Arhanut jarak pendek itu untuk menangkis mortar, pesawat nirawak hingga rudal ke pangkalan. AS juga mengoperasikan baterai-baterai Arhanut Patriot di sejumlah pangkalan Timur Tengah. Arhanut andalan AS itu tersebar dari Yordania sampai Arab Saudi. Selain itu, AS punya aset militer di setidaknya 19 pangkalan darat di Timur Tengah. Kecuali Yaman, tidak ada negara Arab tanpa kehadiran pangkalan AS. Di Arab Saudi pun ada pangkalan militer AS. Yaman dipantau dari pangkalan AS di Djibouti, negara di seberang Yaman. Sejumlah pangkalan dibuat dan dipertahankan AS tanpa persetujuan pemerintah setempat seperti yang terjadi di Suriah dan Irak. Amerika Serikat juga menempatkan tentara di Israel. Mereka mengoperasikan sejumlah Arhanut. AS menempatkan 2 baterai THAAD pencegat rudal jarak jauh. Setiap baterai diawaki setidaknya 100 tentara. Dengan demikian, untuk THAAD saja ada 200 tentara Amerika Serikat di Israel.
Right now.
incident in Damascus came 3 days after Israeli strikes killed dozens of people in Aleppo, mostly Syrian soldiers, as well as members of Hezbollah, including a senior commander.
Setelah hampir setengah abad melanggengkan permusuhan di balik layar, akhirnya pada tanggal 13 April 2024, Iran dan Israel melakukan perang secara terang-terangan. Diawali dengan serangan Israel yang menghancurkan gedung konsulat Teheran di ibu kota Suriah, Damaskus, hingga menewaskan 7 garda revolusi Iran. Lalu Iran membalasnya dengan mengirim lebih dari 300 drone dan rudal jenis balistik serta jelajah untuk memborbardir fasilitas-fasilitas militer milik musuh bebuyutannya tersebut. Bagian menariknya dari konflik antara dua pihak ini adalah serangan bertubi-tubi dari Iran membuat Israel yang selama ini mengabaikan teguran dari PBB justru akhirnya datang mengadu ke Dewan Keamanan PBB atas aksi Iran dan mendesak supaya PBB mengecam serangan Iran tersebut. Konon, memang Iran menjadi salah satu negara yang ditakuti Israel selama beberapa dekade, yang disebut-sebut membawa ancaman terbesar bagi mereka. Bahkan dianggap sebagai musuh kuat oleh Amerika Serikat. Memang, sekuat apakah Iran hingga ditakuti dan dianggap ancaman? Untuk mengetahui kekuatan Iran, kita harus menengok lagi ke belakang dan melintasi zaman, supaya bisa melihat bagaimana Iran ini mampu berdiri sebagai salah satu negara paling berpengaruh dalam geopolitik dunia, khususnya wilayah Timur Tengah. Iran punya nama resmi Republik Islam Iran, tapi di dunia barat, orang-orang menyebut Iran sebagai Persia. Dalam catatan sejarah yang ada, Iran merupakan rumah bagi peradaban besar tertua di dunia yang ada sejak tahun 4000 sebelum Masehi. Konon orang-orang Iran hidup dalam peradaban yang dibangun oleh bangsa Persia. Kalau kata filsuf asal Jerman bernama George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, Iran adalah bangsa bersejarah yang pertama ada di dunia. Peradaban di tanah Iran sudah dikenal lebih maju sejak zaman prasejarah. Hal ini dibuktikan dengan peninggalan-peninggalan artefak arkeologi buatan manusia purba Neanderthal yang diduga berumur 100.000 tahun dari pertengahan zaman batu tua atau paruh pertama milenium ke-1 sebelum Masehi. Selain itu, kawasan barat daya Iran juga merupakan bagian dari hilal subur atau tempat sebagian besar tanaman-tanaman pangan pertama umat manusia dibudidayakan. Namun, bangsa Persia sendiri baru muncul di Iran pada zaman besi. Sebelumnya wilayah Iran justru dikuasai dan dibangun oleh suku-suku lain, seperti yang terkenal adalah suku Susa yang mendiami wilayah Iran semenjak 4395 sebelum Masehi, mengalahkan peradaban Mesopotamia. Lalu Susa ini berkembang dan dikenal sebagai bangsa Elam. Ketika memasuki zaman besi dan kekaisaran Assyria baru akhirnya bangkit, bangsa Elam terusir dari berbagai wilayah kekuasaannya dan akhirnya berbaur dengan bangsa-bangsa lain yang memasuki wilayah Iran di dataran tinggi. Bangsa-bangsa itu adalah bangsa Media, Persia, Partia, Urartu, dan beberapa bangsa lain yang datang dari stepa Pontus Kaspia. Kebanyakan bangsa-bangsa ini tunduk dengan kekaisaran Assyria. Di tahun 646 sebelum Masehi, bangsa Elam kemudian dihabisi oleh Raja Assyria saat itu, Raja Asyurbanipal. Mereka yang tersisa dari bangsa Elam terpaksa melarikan diri ke daerah-daerah lain untuk berlindung. Melihat sejarah panjangnya raja-raja Assyria yang berusaha menaklukkan suku-suku lain, terutama di kawasan barat Iran, akhirnya bangsa-bangsa kecil pun bersatu membentuk negara-negara yang lama-lama semakin membesar dan sangat terpusat pemerintahnya untuk mengalahkan kekaisaran Assyria baru. Di abad ke-7 sebelum Masehi, bangsa Media akhirnya mencapai kemerdekaannya dari kekaisaran Assyria. Mereka kemudian bekerja sama dengan bangsa Babel untuk mengepung dan menghancurkan Assyria. Taktik yang mereka lancarkan berhasil, membuat ibu kota Assyria hancur sehingga akhirnya kekaisaran Assyria baru runtuh. Bangsa Media inilah yang kemudian dianggap berjasa membangun Iran sebagai sebuah bangsa dan kekaisaran, serta tercatat dalam sejarah sebagai bangsa yang mendirikan kekaisaran Iran pertama, kekaisaran terbesar di zamannya. Khoresi Agung atau Khores II yang memimpin kekaisaran Iran lalu mengembangkan kekaisaran dari perpaduan Media dan Persia yang kelak menjadi Achaemenia. Dengan kebijakan dari Khoresi Agung yang dikenal sangat santun, dia mampu membuat rakyatnya tunduk dan patuh pada pemerintahan Persia, yang akhirnya membuat kekaisaran Persia ini berumur panjang. Putranya yang menjadi pewaris kekuasaan bernama Kambisus II memilih untuk melakukan ekspansi kekuasaan dengan menaklukkan Mesir kuno yang tersisa sebagai negara kuat di kawasan itu. Kambisus II mampu menaklukkan Mesir kuno dan meruntuhkan kekaisaran Mesir yang ke-26.
Hai, apa kabar, teman-teman? Saya menemukan bir sisa dari beberapa orang yang berkemah dan saya benar-benar mabuk. Maaf saya menabrak kamera. Apakah kalian pernah melihat vlog Yeti ini di internet? Ini sebenarnya...
Namun sayangnya, pewaris Khoresi Agung ini harus meninggal karena jatuh sakit ketika dia akan meninggalkan Mesir. Dalam beberapa catatan yang dibuat oleh Herodotus, sejarawan Yunani kuno, diyakini bahwa Kambisus II meninggal karena kemarahan dewa-dewi Mesir kuno yang tidak terima bangsanya dikalahkan. Sepeninggal Kambisus II dan setelah sempat terjadi kekosongan kekuasaan, Darius I memutuskan untuk mengambil alih kekuasaan dan menetapkan dirinya sebagai pewaris tahta Persia berdasarkan silsilah keluarga yang lurus dari para penguasa Kekaisaran Achaemenia. Sempat terjadi pemberontakan saat Darius I naik tahta, tapi dia dengan cepat mampu meredamnya. Di bawah kepemimpinan Darius, ibu kota kekaisaran berpindah ke Susa dan dia membangun Persepolis. Darius juga membangun sebuah terusan untuk menghubungkan Sungai Nil dan Laut Merah, di mana pembangunan ini akan menjadi cikal bakal terusan Suez yang kita ketahui sekarang. Banyak perkembangan maju yang terjadi selama masa kekuasaannya. Hal ini tercatat dalam prasasti-prasasti kerajaan dengan bahasa Persia tua ditulis menggunakan aksara paku khusus yang telah disesuaikan. Selain di bawah kekuasaan Quraisy Agung, di tangan Darius inilah tercatat bahwa Kekaisaran Persia telah tumbuh menjadi kekaisaran terbesar dalam sejarah umat manusia. Darius juga memerintah dan mengatur sebagian besar dunia karena dia mengatur wilayah-wilayah penaklukannya yang membentang di 3 benua, yaitu Eropa, Asia, dan Afrika. Kekaisaran Persia telah menjadi negara adikuasa pertama di dunia yang landasan hukumnya sangat menjaga persatuan rakyatnya karena bertabur toleransi dan hormat pada budaya serta agama lain. Namun di penghujung abad ke-6 sebelum Masehi, Darius memutuskan untuk melakukan perang terhadap beberapa wilayah di Eropa di luar kekuasaannya. Beberapa bangsa, kota, dan wilayah di pesisir Yunani pun ditaklukkan olehnya. Ketika Athena, ibu kota negara Yunani, akhirnya turun tangan, pecahlah perang Yunani-Persia yang berlangsung sepanjang setengah waktu dari abad ke-5 sebelum Masehi dan menjadi salah satu perang terpenting dalam sejarah Eropa. Pihak Persia sempat menderita kekalahan setelah membawa kembali wilayah dan bangsa Trakia dan Makedonia ke dalam kekuasaan Persia. Namun penerus tahta Darius, yaitu Ahasuerus I, akhirnya melancarkan invasi kedua Persia atas Yunani. Banyak wilayah di Yunani daratan yang berhasil dikuasai, tapi tidak lama karena dalam peperangan-peperangan berikutnya, Yunani meraih kemenangan dan memukul mundur pasukan Persia yang telah kehilangan kendali atas banyak wilayah di tanah Yunani. Peperangan panjang itu baru benar-benar berakhir setelah ada perjanjian damai Kalias di tahun 449 sebelum Masehi. Beberapa dekade setelahnya, ketika Darius II wafat karena usia tua, Mesir akhirnya memberontak di bawah pimpinan Amirteus dan pemimpin-pemimpin Mesir setelahnya berhasil menghalangi Persia untuk menaklukkan Mesir lagi. Butuh beberapa dekade sampai akhirnya Persia yang dipimpin oleh Augustus atau Raja Artasasta III berhasil menundukkan Mesir lagi dalam kekuasaan Persia. Memasuki abad ke-4 sebelum Masehi, Alexander Agung mengalahkan Darius III dari Kekaisaran Persia dalam serangkaian pertempuran, membawa akhir dari kekuasaan Persia dan memulai kekuasaan Yunani di wilayah Iran. Setelah kematiannya, kekaisaran dibentuk oleh Alexander terpecah belah dan panglimanya Seleucus I Nikator mendirikan Kekaisaran Seleukia yang mencakup wilayah Iran, Mesopotamia, Syria, dan Anatolia. Namun Kekaisaran Seleukia hanya berkuasa selama seabad karena kemudian diruntuhkan kejayaannya dan diusir pergi dari tanah Iran oleh Kekaisaran Parthia yang didirikan oleh bangsa Arsasi. Awalnya menguasai dataran tinggi Iran dan Mesopotamia pada akhir abad ke-3 sebelum Masehi. Mereka juga memperluas kekuasaan mereka ke Arab Timur pada beberapa kesempatan. Bangsa Parthia ini dikenal cukup tangguh dan telah menjadi musuh utama Kekaisaran Romawi di timur. Permusuhan semakin menjadi-jadi setelah bangsa Parthia menghentikan ekspansi Romawi ke arah timur Anatolia. Pasukan berkuda Parthia terkenal akan kecepatan dan ketangkasannya dengan pasukan berat berbaju zirah dan pasukan pemanah yang mematikan, sehingga pasukan Romawi yang saat itu hanya mengandalkan pasukan pejalannya dengan mudah di
Enak kan? Sebaik dulu pakai yogurt. Batuk gak sembuh-sembuh? Pilih Woods. Beda batuknya, beda Woods-nya.
Iran dilaporkan
mengharmonikai di layanan internet unlimited.